Oh, good morning. It's 10 a.m. in the UK, and that means it's time for a look back at the month's Who headlines with JT and the Breakfast Crew and Sunday Breakfast Live.
The overnight rating is in. Doctor Who The Star Beast gets 5.8 million overnight. Good morning, welcome to Who's Views. It is just gone 10 o'clock. It is Sunday, the 26th of November, 2023. It is apparently Doctor Who's 60th anniversary month. As you can see, I am joined this morning by Paul and Brendan, the Time Muddler. And yes, the breaking news just into us here at The Breakfast Show is the rating. The overnight rating is in for Doctor Who, The Star Beast. And gentlemen, and everybody watching, the show got 5.8 million. So 5.8 million. Strictly Come Dancing got 7.67 million overnights, and I'm a Celebrity, Get Him Out of Me got 4.83 million over on the commercial channel. Immediate reactions to this, guys?
JT, is that 5.08 or 5.8?
5.08.
Okay, well that's okay. Well, if because when we're talking about a million difference there, aren't we? Right. Do you know, I did a survey yesterday on Twitter on one of the fan sites, and I was one of those who pressed the button between 5 and 6 million. So, because TV has changed, I needed to know what Strictly did and Celebrity did to see what the context is. So, in that situation, okay. It's just that the other shows don't get that much hype, whereas this one does. But I think this is why we've gone for a streaming platform, haven't we, Doctor Who? Because it's not about sitting on the night watching these programs anymore. It's all about, you know, the long term. So I suppose 5's about all right.
Well,
I think
I can tell you because I've had this ready, hoping that this breaking news would get to us to start the show off, and it did. So thank you, everybody. Thank you, BARB. But this is on a par with the overnights for the going through the recent era. This is on a par with the overnights of the series 1 for Chibnall, something called It Takes You Away, which got an overnight of 5.07. And then I tried to find anything else which was an overnight, but though it plummets after that. So yeah, that was the nearest overnight I could find to this. Something called It Takes You Away. There you go.
That's the one with the frog. Less said about that, the better.
Oh, is it? Oh, the famous one, right?
Yes, I think that's quite a healthy rating, considering the state of television, and as you were saying, you know, that people don't watch it live anymore, kind of thing, really. So I think that's quite good, and I'll probably pick up a couple of more on the iPlayer as well. So probably at about 7 million, probably, which I think is quite good.
It's usually
encouraging. So
it's okay for the time slot, but as Brendan was saying there as well, it was hyped an awful lot. But yeah. I'm going to be very sort of cagey about this because, you know, it was the first of a new Doctor. Okay, it was David Tennant, but it was the first of a new Doctor. I actually predicted on one of our shows 5.1, so I'm 5.01, so I'm delighted because I was nearly there. So, you know.
Well, I'm pleased it got as much as it did, because I thought it would get less than that, because based on what happened previous era, and the way where Doctor Who was at this point, even with the bringing back a Tennant, which I think is a great thing to do, but it's to try and encourage new viewers back in again, or old viewers back in again. But it's still you know, it's hard. But
you could argue. I think that the only way you can do this, I know we changed doctors and production teams, but I think you've got to see the last Jodie Whittaker one, which got about 2. I don't know about the Power of the Doctor, but her era went down, down, down.
Well, the Power of the Doctor got an overnight of 3.71 and a consolidated of 5.1.
Right. And I think her last of her series got about 2. So, yeah, the Power of the Doctor, everyone knew there was going to be regeneration. So,
it peaked at the end in the last 10 minutes as well to get it to the 5.1.
So my point is there that maybe with all the hype and maybe with all the speculation and that, actually they've doubled their audience. If you go on the 2 million one, and they've had a healthy amount. You know, TV is not what it was, and that's a shame about it. Saturday night TV is not the same, and it was against Harry Potter as well. I mean, you know, they'll be taking some of the slice of the kids that way.
Yeah.
So if you were in live, it wasn't a slam dunk. Most will have been doing other things.
I think it's average. I do challenge anybody that does say that television has changed, because there have been shows such as Line of Duty, Unforgotten, that if you do something with quality, the British public will sit down on the night and watch it, because they were both getting 9 to 10 million overnight. And what gets me about the whole hypocrisy, of course, of the show business industry is that was applauded. That was marvelous. That was brilliant. You know, all this big, oh, that was brilliant. But something that is this will also be applauded. But it still said 5.08 million. Then it jumps to 7.67 million for Strictly, which followed it, shortly after. I still think there's this whole thing about they're not matching up what people want to see. And it'd be interesting, of course, moving forward, gentlemen, now of what happens next week, the week after, Christmas.
Yes.
And because David Tennant and Catherine Tate are a draw, but how many people may have been put off by the show, the dialogue? I don't know. I do need to tell everybody as well, although we're talking about this just now, we are going to be talking about it more in depth this evening, 7 o'clock on the channel, 7 o'clock here on the channel tonight, with our Who's Views reviews of the Star Beast, where we go into it all. We see whoever wants to turn up from the Whotastic panel, and we all talk about it a lot more. So join us tonight as well. Set a reminder, because the show's up on the channel.
I think I agree with you on the Line of Duty. That's always been my argument, but I think that argument is correct in what it's saying about adult audiences. But I think the teenage market, etc., and the early 20s don't do it the same. And so Line of Duty grabs a certain audience, and it does it very well. And it does it in this century.
Yeah, it grabs the audience that pays for the license fee.
Yeah. Because the younger ones, I know. I mean, you know, I sit and watch them at school. They dart around, their concentration jumps, gaming, and all the rest of it. So actually, maybe 5.1 almost is not bad for that. For the target audience they're going for. And of course, it's no surprise that with Strictly, now well established, and unfortunately Doctor Who not seen as well established, especially not on Which Blooming Night, and with a slightly different audience, you know, the older ones come in for Strictly. So you can see there's been a decision made, either they're making the tea or something, and then they're moving.
Yeah, I'm not sure about that with Strictly either, because we all know that the BBC, every aspect of the BBC is so desperate to capture young people for the simple reason they are the future license fee payers, and they know they have a problem. We know that the BBC has, in the last couple of years, lost over 2 million license fee payers, households, including myself. We cancelled the because it's not giving out the output that people want to see, and it's very lecture, isn't it? We even saw it last night in Doctor Who, for heaven's sake. That was a culture shock for me, having not watched it for 7 years. We're like, oh my god, what's this? But you know, it's a real case of being there. But they're so desperate to get this young audience in, aren't they? But they have to face the fact, it doesn't matter what they do, it doesn't matter how much they pander to a young audience, they're not going to pay the license fee. It's not how society works. It's not how television works anymore. So you're right in that they've got to put everything online, but you still have to pay for your online subscriptions. And it's a minefield, as we know there. We've got so many platforms now, so many people competing. Sometimes I ask myself, does Doctor Who fit into the modern world? And sometimes I come to the conclusion, no, it doesn't really.
I think, interestingly, though, I think sometimes the time slot is very important. Whether 6:30 or 7 o'clock made it a better time to see it, I don't know, because I think sometimes the time slot can make all the difference. And I think
of course it can.
Maybe that half an hour could have made the difference at 7 rather than 6:30. I don't know.
And that's the problem with Doctor Who going out into the autumn, like it traditionally did, and like a lot of us like it to be there. But the autumn is now, as I've said before, it's Strictly time. You know, from September to Christmas, it's Strictly, because that's their main flagship Saturday night show. It's been going for nearly 20 years, if not 20 years. You know, my mate was on the very first one. He was the very first person to get evicted from that show. Poor old Jason. But it was terrible, though. But that's another thing. But, you know, it's the whole thing. And we do know that they do want it back at 7 o'clock on Christmas Day. And when it comes back in the spring, it's going to be on allegedly at 7 o'clock then as well. It's going to be interesting from us as Doctor Who fans who love all the number games. I don't care what anybody says. We do. We love the number games. We love to know what the overnights are. We love to discuss them. We love to debate them. And that's exactly what we're going to be doing tonight as well on the Star Beast review as well. Guys, I think we should say good morning and thank you for joining us. We've got a big audience this morning. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. If you're not into the chat, come and get into the chat. Come and have a chat with the guys, with everybody in there. Come and say hello to us on the show. So let's say a big hello to everybody that is joining us this morning. I want to say hello. We'll start. Here's Woodhouse 122 with Rory. Hello, good morning to you. Crimpling Doubloon is here. Ahoy, lovely to see you, mate. Nice to see you. Saying ahoy to JT, Paul, and Brendan there. We've got Edwin Droog is here as well. So good morning to you. Good morning to Garbage, who has is able to join us this morning because he's so busy, of course, with his business and what have you. He's saying he predicted 7 million, and that we could get. I mean, it could. I don't think it's going to get 7 million now because usually you add a million on, don't you?
Yeah,
but of course, in this day and age, especially with the some of the fans that we're dealing with, I noticed one tweet X this morning where one young fan has said he's watched it 12 times back to back already. He's obviously going to need a psychiatrist later on today. Peter Harrington is saying good morning to us. Hi, JT, Paul, and Brendan. Here's Mark. Mark is saying good morning, gents from the Who Cave. Good morning to you, Mark. Hope you're well. Mark is over in Australia. Did you see yourself on our Great Expectations show with Brendan and myself the other night? We played that on Friday night. We played your insert. Thank you for joining us all the way from over there. Who have we got here? Oh, Garbage is saying it takes you away was one of the worst. What's that? Oh, that's the episode I was just talking about.
That's the episode, yeah.
Yeah.
That was
I'm waking up, everybody.
Froggate is another one that, yeah.
Froggate, yeah. Just wanted to say he hated that episode last night. Great. Come back and tell us more about that at 7 o'clock if you're free tonight, mate. And then you look at this, he says, I'll see you next Sunday. Just kidding, I'm still here. On the overnight ratings, because we've just had the breaking news that Doctor Who scored an overnight rating of 5.08 million. Crimpling Doubloon is here. I've lost him. Maybe a million or so were tuning in for Strictly catching just the last 10 minutes. It's very, very, very probable. It's very probable. Pete says, we can only hope it goes up next week, but doubt it.
That's interesting, Peter. Yep.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing, isn't it, really? I mean, it's just... good morning to Madeline Funk. Hello, sir. Nice to see you. Lovely to see you. Welcome. Great to see you, mate. Hope you are well. I hope you're well.
There's only one meddling monk. It's me, Time Muddler.
Ooh, actually, that's a whole different show, and we'll probably get cancelled for that, wouldn't we, with a meddling monk? It'll be Disney Plus ratings that we'll be telling. Yes. How do we get that? Well, I'll have to look into that to see how we get those because they don't necessarily have to put it out. So if anybody knows, let me know because we would like to see those, wouldn't we, guys? We would like to discuss them.
Yeah.
And Mark is saying, I've yet to watch my insert. We'll check it later. Please do. It's on Great Expectations from Friday. I just want to say to everybody watching as well, thank you for your support this week here on the channel. Our Diamond Day show, Great Expectations, and all the content we put out for the 60th anniversary. We've had some great feedback. I'm very humbled for all the feedback that's come back to us. So thank you so much. Really, really chuffed. Right, so yes, you are watching Sunday Breakfast from us here at Who's Views. And yes, it was the 60th anniversary of Doctor Who. And a lot was happening apart from the show allegedly coming back. Ooh, controversial already. I can tell. Tune in at 7 o'clock this evening for my take. Right, so we've got all that. Yeah, but it was a busy month. And of course, it all started on the 1st of November with the launch of the Whoniverse, a term that Doctor Who fans from around the world have been using for God knows how many years now, guys. I've lost track of that, but it's been around for a long time. I think I first heard about it in the 90s. So the Whoniverse was launched via the iPlayer. It's now very, very obvious we're going to get that branding logo like they do with Star Wars and Star Trek. Absolutely every time something to do with Doctor Who falls. It was even on BBC One last night again, wasn't it? You know, and I think my sister said, "What's this?" But we had a lot. We did have a bit going on, didn't we? It's kept us busy. We had Tales from the TARDIS, of course, which was dropped on that particular day, which we've all had a look at. These were the inserts, of course, on the iPlayer to certain episodes that had been selected, weren't they? We did a show about it. We came and chatted about it. Our Tales of the TARDIS review. It is okay in the scores, if I remember rightly, the scores on the TARDIS stores. So go and have a look at that one as well. And the Star Beast was launched, wasn't it, gentlemen? Later this month as well. The press launch happened, and this actually happened at Battersea Power Station. Now, this is one of the places I really have to go and see now, because when I lived in London for all those years, this was a dump. I mean, I went there once, I think, for a rave, allegedly. I don't know if I should say that actually. But I went there for a big club night. Yeah. And that was fun. From what I remember, that was fun. But now, guys,
From what you can remember, yeah.
From what I can remember, but from now, it's a big shopping centre, and there's gorgeous businesses in there, and cafes and restaurants and all that stuff there. So I'd love to go and see it. I don't know if you two are aware of that.
I had heard that they had done it all up again, yeah. And
it looks great.
Apparently, there's like several cinemas in there, isn't there? So
yeah.
When they had the launch of it, they had booked out the entire place, but there's different sections of cinema, which is weird. It's not a big complex; it's small ones. Yeah.
Yeah, well, they did have this press launch, and we've got some pictures from that as well. In case you've probably seen them, but we'll go through them because we are here to look at the Who headlines from the month. So yeah, there were these various bits and pieces where you can go, tying in what Paul was saying there, and of course the star of last night's show was there as well. Meep the Beep was there, looking really quite good actually. I thought it's a nice little, I don't know.
It's a good creation, I think, definitely, yeah.
Oh, it's a great creation. Obviously, as we all know from the Doctor Who Weekly back in the day, classic strip. Remember every word.
I meant more as a visualization of from the comics.
It is, though, isn't it?
Worked really well, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I mean, considering that part of it would have been CGI as well, it's beautifully done. It's very lovely realised, but it's a costume. I didn't realise there was going to be somebody in it.
Yeah, I mean, the Unleashed episode went into great detail, which was interesting, seeing how all that came together with the animatronics and the puppetry and the person inside it and the voice, etc. It really came together quite well.
I think it looked really good. But we did have pictures of people there at the party, of course. We've got Katie and Janet there. We've got Sophie doing her best to cosplay her Doctor there with Wendy. Have you guys seen these pictures?
Yeah, I was interested to see that I had to work out, was it meant to be Sylvester McCoy or just her take on a female Doctor? I wasn't quite sure.
Oh.
It's always interesting. It's always interesting watching the pairings. So, for example, on Doctor Who Day itself, you doing the rounds was Nicola. Nicola did very well on that day. Nicola and Wendy were on a lot together. It was interesting to see who the pairings are between all the companions in real life.
Yeah, we've got Julie Gardner here with Carol Ann Ford, and that's Jane Tranter on the right. They're looking a bit like the Meep herself. No disrespect. I think she must have skinned one with Sylvester. And of course, Sylvester was there also with Colin. They were representing the Doctors. Caroline Ford again here with Wendy Padbury. And then we've got another one of these two here as well. Yeah, I see what you mean. I just thought she was cosplaying. I mean, it's quite sort of 1930s style, isn't it? I thought she was just trying to.
It reminds me of that character in You Rang My Lord. There's the gay character in Rang My Lord. It's a bit like that, But I thought, yeah.
There's a TV show for you. If you've never heard about that, go and have a look at it. It is quite funny, actually. What's this from Peter? Pete's saying, do we know who was in the Meep? Do we know their name? No idea. Yeah,
it was mentioned in the Unleashed episode, but I can't remember off the top of my head.
Yes.
I didn't watch that. I have to be honest. I didn't watch that. I just couldn't face anyway.
It was great. You saw the artist and the writer meet the realization of Beep the Meep. And
David Tennant had a real fan moment, which was lovely. That was nice. But
yeah, no, they were quite moved. I mean, it must be hard, you create something, 40 odd years later, you see a physical realization there, and so that was quite an emotional moment. That was, and it was a female actress of a diminutive stature.
Listen to him being PC. Lex is saying here it was a young woman. They had a team of 6 operating it. Bloody hell! Yeah. Wow.
But she was having to crouch anyway. It wasn't, and then the animatronic. It's a bit like the new Daleks. The animatronics are done separately.
Yeah. And it must have been a bit like the original R2D2 as well. All I can say, says Mark here, is at least the Who content is increasing, unlike the radio silence with Jodie. Watch the special twice and the Doctor Who Unleashed, so I'm now all cut up. You watched it twice. Wow, okay.
I've watched it twice now, and I'm still not sure. Anyway, but that's for tonight.
Yes, come back tonight, 7 o'clock, live on the channel here. We'll be talking about this. And Pete's saying, cheers, I accidentally wiped Unleashed. Well, I'll show you.
Accidentally, I believe you. Yeah,
Absolutely, Pete. Yeah, we believe you on that one. So yes, so then the roller coaster this month as well, and it has been a roller coaster for the headlines because believe it or not, there has been a lot, and we're getting to the big one very shortly because I know a lot of you will be here to chime in with that. Yes, Davos Gate is on the way. Everybody, stay tuned with us. But before that, and one that went, I thought, oh, this is going to this is going to upset a lot of people inside. And I don't know if you saw this, but Disney Plus, in their infinite wisdom, actually leaked the date and the name of the Christmas the Christmas special, as they call them now, the Christmas special, because they put this out. Season streamings. That's very Disney, isn't it? But can you see it there? They actually did the Doctor Who holiday special, as they call it over in the States, the Church on Ruby Road.
I think the one thing, the holiday special makes me think of the Star Wars holiday special.
Oh God, can you imagine?
Which is a dreadful piece of television. And it's interesting having that kind of line with it doesn't bode well. But
yeah, don't sit on the fence by any means, Paul, on that particular.
I don't know what the fuss is about though, because most of us know that Ruby's in it. We know about Ruby, so leaking the title. If I had Return of the Daleks in it, I'd understand, but it's not that kind of spoiler, is it? Really, to be honest.
It's not, but what I thought about this when I saw this is I thought, hang on a minute, this was before, of course, the BBC studios and Bad Wolf had done it, and I just imagine certain phone calls or emails going out to BBC, to Walt Disney, or the Disney Plus rather, from Wales going, oi, don't do anything till we tell you. You've just spoiled our plan. And all this, do you know what I mean? Yeah, I can see some frantic people going, no. But that made me laugh.
It just shows you we are still in the fairly early days of this relationship. And they haven't quite got all their ducks in a row. They're doing an awful lot, but you can just see that there's communication and certain things. They're in the first year or two of their relationship and they're still working things out. Yeah. And maybe they're also realizing that actually the way that BBC likes to do Doctor Who is they're quite controlling of how you do it. Whereas not every show they're like that. I mean, they do seem to like, and I don't know if it's linked with RTD and Bad Wolf, that they love that intense control of how you do the publicity. But the reveal of that title, as Paul said, I mean, yeah, you can see there's a staff personnel issue, a discussion going on in the background, but it's such a, I don't know, dull title. I mean, what do I learn about that? Not much. The Church on Ruby Road, maybe. I mean, it's a bit of a geography lesson.
If it was called Robots of Death, it would be much more exciting, wouldn't it, to be fair? But
no, I'd be worried if it was called the Robots of Death. I thought, oh my God, they're about to censor and rewrite and re-educate that one.
They've redone it,
Yeah, and anything that's called a holiday special, to be quite honest, to time with your point there about the infamous Star Wars holiday special from all those many years ago, it is atrocious. It's very embarrassing. It's very, very bad. But in Doctor Who in this day and age, I reckon that's where we're going to get to. I can just see it coming now. We're going to get that sort of stuff. Pete Harrington is saying here it's a seaside special. Yeah. Oh, and somebody's actually, where was that? I've just lost that. Hold on. Oh yeah, Peter Harrington. Pete again. Pete saying, I met Bobby V years ago, who was the Mox of Balhoun, I think. Yeah. So was that who was?
No, the female actor in Meep, I don't think she was diminutive actually physically, really. She wouldn't have been 6'5", obviously, but she had to crouch in it. And so it wasn't that you needed a smaller person to do it. It was just you needed an actress who could bend and be almost a gymnast, I think.
Yeah, Pete's corrected himself. He's saying it's Jimmy V. Yes, that's the name that I think we remember. So long ago now, isn't it, really?
Fana Kapalata. Yeah, there we are.
Yes, there we go. Yeah, Crimply Nerd is saying there. Also, the red-headed thing in Voyage of the Damned. Yeah. It's all good stuff.
And the Grask and many, many others. Yeah. So.
I forgot about the Grask.
Yeah.
Anyway, so keep your comments coming in. Keep it all right this morning here on Sunday Breakfast Live. So we've had all that coming up. Now, how many of you were aware as well that on the 24th of November, there was a screening of the Star Beast for fans?
What fans? I've been sat here. I didn't get any invitations. So I was sat here.
I don't think we're on the list, Brendan, to be fair. But How you get on the list, I don't know, but there you are.
Well, I don't think we're on the list either, and I don't think we will ever be. But this was, well, I'll show you it here. There it is here. This is from the Bad Wolf Twitter X. Oh, I still don't like that term X. It doesn't ring well, does it? Full house for the at RTS Cymru Wales BBC Doctor Who 60th anniversary screening and celebration. After treating fans to episode 1, Stefan Powell, who was the host of the Unleashed, of course, chatted to Russell T. Davis and Jane Tranter before some amazing Screen Alliance trainees took to the stage. Well, good for the trainees. That's fantastic. But who else was aware that this was going on? And it leads me to believe that these are the new elite fans that got the call here. The people that have been approved. The people that wear the labels. And the people who are going to like this thing because of the message. Do you know what I mean? So how many of you were aware that this was happening? They kept it very, very quiet, didn't they? I have blanked out various places here because it's all allegedly. Everything's allegedly.
Of course, yeah.
Do
we have a lawyer, GT? We can just in case.
It's all allegedly. But
Okay.
I don't know. I mean, firstly, do you want to get in, Hugh Views? Do you want to get into this new elite?
I think.
And how do you get into it if you want to get into it?
Look, I've got to go back to being a fan as a kid. I mean, as I went through into my teens, I sensed, whether I was wrong, but this is perception, and I was offended. I'll use the language. I sensed that the way Doctor Who was made, although I loved it, it wasn't speaking to me per se. It felt like a very middle-class BBC programme. And so you felt as though there was a division. Then you heard about all these fans, and I'm not naming anybody, who seem to know everything, be involved in everything, have influence on everything, and I'm just a kid from Middlesbrough. That kind of thing. You always felt there was a difference between certain types of fans. Yeah. And then you're mentioning this. By the way, there's one little thing, JT, we have to investigate, and I'm not going to forget. On the 24th, did you notice Paul Murray was not available? Yeah, he's got some...
Yes.
Yeah. So I'm going to have to get my wife to come in and give me a character reference to me and an alibi to make sure I wasn't there.
Well,
okay, so...
Hashtag Paul Murray is innocent.
Yes, until proven guilty. Yeah.
That sooty placard is going to have to change fast.
Yeah, justice for Paul. Yeah. I was working, sadly.
What I'm trying to push out here as well. I mean, good for these people that went there, but I've recognized some of these people, and I know their politic, I know their agenda, I know how they brand themselves with this fantasy gaga language here. It does seem to me that, like with the concert that was the 60th anniversary concert from October, it does seem to me that they could possibly be selecting people they know they're not going to get any back chat from, or people like us who are a bit more mature who will turn around and go, what are you doing here? Can you just explain this to me? What's the reasoning behind this approach? Why can't you just do this? Why can't you just tell us whatever it's going to be? And it does seem to be a new faction of just the approved. Am I making sense here?
I think you are. I think people, certain fans do think a certain way, and I do think they accept more things than we're accepting, and we're allowed to have our own opinion, and that's the important thing. But I think they are. I think there's a certain amount of censorship going on to make sure this goes down well, I think.
Yeah. And that's the point, isn't it? Because they all came back. I mean, I have to say as well, Brendan, some of the pictures there that I found, I've only put a selection of them there, but some of the, what I would call questionable elements of YouTube were there. People that I know or we would know to see. Obviously, we're not going to name anybody, but they have been very vocal when it comes to people who don't like the Jodie Whittaker era, who don't like the gender identity politics, who don't like all that sort of stuff, have been very critical of age groups because, ageism is allowed now, homophobia is allowed now, and they were there. And it just made, when in the last show, we talked about a certain fan that had issued a death threat, blatant death threat on the last Breakfast show and been kicked off X, Twitter. was that individual there, or was that the line for them? And you know, this whole thing about inclusion, it's very exclusionary, isn't it?
Well, they're not that right. They're fans. We'll call them fans. We're all fandom, but they in the know. They have influence. They have a network. They have contacts. And then there's the not we. The rest of us who just have no link to anything. I mean, I said the other day, wasn't it, on one of our recent shows, I am a BBC license payer, and I have always followed this show. I've never had any contacts or connections with anything to do with the making of Who. I'm just one of those ordinary plods. And Cardiff has a monopoly on exclusives, being an extra. We can have Bedway will tell us, you know. I mean, Bedway has done very well out of Doctor Who in the, you know, in his previous incarnation, and geography helps. And it's just that the BBC, who like to be British and cover the whole Isles, well, people who don't know Britain too well, if you're not near Cardiff, it's a hell of a place to get to.
It certainly is for me. Yeah, I mean, it's about 6 hours, five to 6 hours from me, and several trains. Which, trust me, would you want to in Britain?
At the moment with strikes and everything, so you've got that in the bay. You've got that light display. Well, I'm not going to drive all the way down for a 5-minute display, although it looks good.
It looks fabulous. I wish they had repeated it though. They could have done it at Salford Quays, couldn't they? They could have done it on the Thames. They could have done it up in Glasgow as well. I mean, that thing cost, but it looks fantastic. But you know, considering the BBC, you're right. I totally agree with you. Considering the BBC is supposed to be one unit, I get more and more feelings now that it's not. It's becoming more and more separate. You know, and I don't know.
Can I be devil's advocate here? Sometimes that does happen. That it is very Cardiff centric or Wales centric. But during the Edinburgh Film and Television conference they have every August, I was lucky enough to see a preview of the first the episode with Davros and Peter Capaldi, The Witch is Familiar, the first one. I got to see a preview of that.
Wouldn't be allowed now.
At the television festival, and Stephen Moffat was there for Q&A. So that was local to where I stay. So that was a good kind of chance to see something in advance. So it does happen, but there was a reason they were trying to promote it at the television festival. So it was
yes, of course, because it was international players as well, isn't it?
Yeah.
What I say is,
so it does happen, is what I'm trying to say.
It does happen, but what I'll also say, Paul, is it is the BBC, and what I tend to find, we find this a lot in this kind of politics of now, is the provinces get it. So Cardiff, Edinburgh, England, hello, and England is not London. England is not London.
You had it for 26 years. What do you want?
I mean, viewers, we're moaning about access. Look at this program. It's 2 Scots to 1 English. Away, man.
Yes, but that's deliberate by me.
GT is kind of 50-50, isn't it, to be fair? So.
I am 50-50, actually, We've got some interesting comments about this as well. Tardy Spider, hello to you. Good morning. I thought you had to watch Who's Views to be elite, obviously. Crippling to Bloom is saying, I wouldn't want to be a member of an elite that would want me as a member. That's fair enough.
That's misquoting Groucho Marx. Fabulous, love that.
Right, fair enough, though, isn't it? Woodhouse 122 is saying, I'll do anything I can to avoid those who influence us. Now that's the key thing now, isn't it? It strikes me that in the industry, Woodhouse 122, I think what they're looking at is, who are these influential players? Strictly does it as well, because they always have a YouTuber on there now in the belief that it's going to bring the young people that follow them. It never does. It really doesn't. You might get the odd couple coming through to watch them, but it doesn't bring the millions that they have. But it's all about influence.
They are actually trying to bring in as much of a demographic as possible. I thought it was genius having David Tennant doing the a bedtime story on CBeebies. I thought they're starting early with that, so get them when they're really young and try and build it up. So they are trying to think about bringing in more kids as much as possible, aren't they?
Yeah, well, but it's not working though. I don't think, and if it does, it tends to be a certain clique. We've got here as well, Tardy Spider saying, are they influencers or under the influence? Yes.
Yeah.
That's all we can say on that one.
Watch the eyes, not around the eyes, look into the eyes. That's it. Yeah.
They're not talking to, and they're not including working class kids. That's a fact.
Because working class kids are not wanted now, and that's part of this whole thing. When you are looking at what I call and everybody knows I can't stand this whole tick boxing agenda, which is hiding under the terms diversity, inclusion, representation. It's just tick boxing because you can see it. And again, we're going to come back to this tonight from my point of view in reviews. But I was watching that episode last night and I could see it again. I could see, oh, there's the tick box, there's the tick box. Yeah. And sometimes I think people sit down with a blank sheet of paper, as we used to say, probably now a blank laptop, isn't it? And go, right, how do I write a story around these things here that I have to put into this? Yeah. And you can tell, can't you? And I think it does harm occasions to stories, but yeah, we got there. Well, we've got Edwin Duke is saying to you here, Brendan, he agrees with you. There you go.
Oh, thank you. Well, I mean, I'm not going to talk about tonight, obviously, but I did see some working class representation in the episode, and they were on bikes. And
yeah.
I don't think we're included at all. I think we're all evil.
I'm probably going to repeat myself now, but that scene was deliberate, obviously, to give part of the message. But what I would like to say now, as part of my message to RTD, is as the BBC is supposed to be impartial and balanced, I would like to see another scene in a forthcoming episode where women are being verbally abused and attacked by trans activists now, because that happens on a daily basis more than the other way round. So in the interest of balance, can we please have that scene now? Thank you.
And also, I think for balance, you'll need now, because it's gone the other way, that a man belittles a woman. I think we have to go back to that, because the balance.
What was that? Yeah. Oh, we're gonna have to do it. I've forgotten about that, Brendan. I'll just make a note of that. Put that in tonight.
There's lots of things to cover tonight. It's gonna be a long show.
Please clear your diaries for a week, everybody. When we start at 7 o'clock tonight for Who's Views Reviews.
Here's another glass of tea, Brendan. A gallon of tea.
We've got another message for you here, actually, from Lexi. We've got also, Brendan. Remember, you aren't ordinary. You're a male presenting Time Lord.
There won't be many of them in the future, will
there? Check under his skirt. That's what I say. That'll tell you. Crowbars, says Pete. Crowbars are used liberally for stories. Does your gob fit? Well, mine wouldn't, I tell you. Absolutely not. But this is the point. And you, one of you mentioned there as well. I wanted to say here that annoying fans, that has happened especially really since 2017, but it really has reared its head again this week, especially in November. But for me, pissing off fans is not the thing to do. It's not a clever thing to do at all. And also, what I wanted to talk about is that it's actually very bad for the economy, believe it or not, because this week, a BBC report into the economic impact of Doctor Who found that more than 134 million in gross value added in Wales, and a total UK contribution to the economy of 256 million. Now, that is a considerable contribution to both the Welsh and the UK economy. Now, if Doctor Who is playing such a good role in the economy, why would you consider harming that? Why would you put all those jobs at risk by nobody watching the show? If nobody watches the show, there's no show. If you annoy the fan base, if you ignore the great British public, as the last few years arguably have done, because the ratings went down to what, 2.20 for Legend of the Sea Devils over the overnight. That's ridiculous. A consolidated of 3.34. No wonder it was nearly coming off. It's that close to being axed. But if you're getting that much money from this from a telly show, a telly show, why put that in jeopardy? I just don't understand.
When are these figures? Do they cover an actual time period? Does it say when they were taken, and when is it based over the last year or the past 20 years? What does it cover?
I think it's over the past. I think it's over the past 4 or 5. I did write that down. I'll have to come back to you. Sorry, I've lost that bit.
No, I'm just curious. I just wondered, because based on what you're saying about the previous regime and how that panned out and how it was reacted to by the general public, if it's not affected business that much in terms of still making money from it, then that's an interesting kind of contradiction, isn't it?
Yeah, it really is. You can actually see the full story of this. It's written by Hugh Thomas, great Welsh name there. It's on bbc.co.uk/news/UK Wales. And there's a whole article about this. And it's actually it goes on from originally why they took the show to Cardiff anyway. Russell T Davies came out saying he wouldn't have done it if they were keeping it in London. Jane Tranter, Julie Gardner in there saying that it was the best place to do it was Cardiff. It goes through all that for it, how it's built up and how it's also spawned a lot of other businesses on the back of it. This is actually incredible. It says here it's also triggered a far greater investment by other production companies who were persuaded to film in Wales after witnessing the success of BBC Wales's Doctor Who. Now, one of those people that have been quoted here is a name that we'll all know. It's Danny Hargreaves. And he said, I had no idea it was going to be as popular as it is now. Now, Danny Hargreaves, of course, provided the special effects for the first series of Doctor Who, and then he opened his own business called Real SFX in 2008, and it's still there. His work was seen in The Star Beast, of course, and they're based in Cardiff. He also said, we get to build some really cool stuff, and the show gives me a license to blow up stuff.
I mean,
it's going to be a bang. That's it.
It's all great because, as in, the British taxpayer as well as the British license payer distributes to the provinces a pot of money. They spend it, put it in their capitals. Meanwhile, the rest of the UK, the towns, get absolutely bottle. The Northeast gets nothing. They shut the BBC Newcastle bit. I have to say, you've got Salford, you've got Cardiff. It's all down one side. I'm sorry, but it's not representation at all. Now, I know you said, JT, as part of your question on this economy one, are they making a mistake by what they're doing? But they're not in their eyes, because if you look at any TV show, adverts, look at the major franchises from Disney and everything, they're all doing the same thing. So they think they're doing what everybody else is doing, changing how they do representation. And this is the way you speak. I don't think the BBC and the Doctor Who team think they're doing anything out of the ordinary. They think they're following.
Probably not. Probably not, because we're part of this showbiz nonsense that's going on. But do you know what they mustn't be doing? Looking at the feedback, looking at the fact that the ratings are in the toilet, looking at the fact that people are not sitting down watching television on the night that that they put it out, considering that they are worried about how do we get onto our online platforms, how do we find an audience. I mean, look at all of us. We grew up with the BBC because of children's television, good quality children's telly from the BBC, from Saturday morning to John Craven's Newsround to Blue Peter. Very good stuff with people doing jobs. Great dramas. We had some great dramas, but that got us into the BBC. So eventually we stayed with the BBC. We grew up with the BBC. We take the license fee when we get to the age where we've got to have it, when we get our own place. That's what's not happening now. And when you do something like, where is children's BBC? Where is it? Why is it not on BBC One every day so that you can bring an audience into BBC One and the BBC, and you've got good quality stuff that I'd hate to think what sort of stuff they're showing on there now. I have heard of some of the alleged dramas they're putting on. Oh my God, it's brainwashing to a degree, I would say. But, this is the problem with it, isn't it? And that's why I think the BBC are a mess, because they jettisoned the youth thing. They didn't keep the pattern. If they kept that pattern of saying, right, is Jack and Ori kids, here's Blue Peter, here's your news round, and kept it in that slot, I don't think they'd be in as much trouble as they are now. I think I think they've shot themselves in the foot big time, and I don't think it's irreversible.
I think they have. I think going back slightly to what Brenda said about representation of location. Interestingly, they may film it in Cardiff, but it's all set in London, which is weird. Luckily, though, we don't have. In the previous regime, they had it was all very much set in Sheffield. Now, I don't know if that's a good or a bad thing. I've never been to Sheffield, so I can't comment on that. So I'm sure it's a lovely place to go to. But when you make it that narrow, that becomes very parochial, and it doesn't give it a wider kind of universe, does it? It makes it very narrow, don't you think?
Yeah, I'm a Yorkshire man, and it was set in Yorkshire, so I should have been happy. But I didn't think that, because it was Chibnall just doing his, his area, wasn't he? You can make it somewhere. I mean, the BBC could have relocated to the northeast instead of Salford. They could have done anything, and then still pretended they're in London and done their bits and bobs. They've got green screen, remember? I mean, for God's sake. The second episode of this new series, they're going to be wowing us with green screen. Well, stick it in Middlesbrough, build up a TV company there, and do it all on blooming green screen, and we'll all think we're in London. It's easy.
It must be. I mean, it's great. Let me from. I love things about the economy and stuff like this. To hear that the GVA from a company or whatever you want to call this now, subsidiary, whatever you want to call it, is that good. I think that's brilliant, because of course it does create jobs. It does inspire people to actually create their own businesses around it. That's lovely, and it's great for Wales. But yeah, I mean, it must actually, when you look at BBC Scotland, when you look at the fractions in BBC England, BBC One, they must still be going, you know, because they haven't managed to do the same.
Well, it was all serendipity to a degree. You got Russell Davies back in 2005. You had Julie Garrett.
He wouldn't do it in London, he says. He wouldn't have done it in London if they said we're going to do it in London. He said he wouldn't have done it.
All that. So we talked about fans being on the in. We talked, we're talking about, people who happen to be a showrunner of a certain nationality. And I think that's offensive normally. I think that's down normally on a bad list, nationalism. But it's not when you're Welsh. So, I'm aware that there's all this nonsense and track. By the way, I have to say this because people think, why has he got a hobby horse on this? If we're going to talk about economic statistics, the Northeast is one of the poorest parts of Europe.
I was coming to that. Yeah.
The BBC, British broadcasting company, couldn't give a toss.
Well, yeah. I mean, they're so busy chasing diversity targets and inclusion targets. From my point of view, they have forgotten about realism. And the fact is, they have lost over 2 million households on the license fee. They're probably going to lose a lot more coming up to it, and I think they are panicking in-house. I'd love to be in one of the meetings saying, oh, what are we going to do next? Because the answer to me is pretty obvious. You've got to go back to how you were, drop all the messages, start giving out entertainment, which is available to everybody. And yes, I do mean white people in that as well. And just get it on the screen and stop patronizing us and stop chasing an audience that just isn't there. It's ridiculous. But
the audience and the economy thing, the other thing is, and it is a city metropolis versus towns issue, because what you're making and presenting and showing in all of the programs, I'm not even having to go Doctor Who, it's everything. They're presenting a metropolitan view to townies who are going,
it's a North London point of view. Let's face it. It's a North London point of view dictated to the rest of us.
I'm not doing a review. Don't worry. I'm not saying anything. But there was some language used last night that I know my mum and dad wouldn't understand.
Yes.
It wasn't talking to them. And so, people in normal areas, normal people, nice people, wouldn't understand the lingo.
Yeah, you're right. And that's the problem now, isn't it? It's... there's nothing. I mean, my mum was the same there. She a lot of the message went over her head, where I'm sitting there going, oh God, no. So why bother? Because what comes through is you're trying to pander to a minority who will kiss your ass because they love that, and the rest of us either go, oh no, or.
And that's interesting. If you're finding it tricky, or your family are finding it tricky, how's the rest of the world going to cope with it in different regions around the world? How's that going to come?
They're not going to be showing it in Dubai or anything like that, are they?
So that's it.
Well,
so areas you won't get to see
chat. Thank you, everybody, for joining us this morning. Absolutely delighted to see you. We've got some nice chat here, guys. We've got TARDIS Spider saying, the shows they want to show the young, they want kept in shadowy places, or they don't get made. Take it from me. If you've got a good project for children, and it doesn't have any of this tick-boxing elements in it, it won't get financed, because you're then told, oh yes, this is great, that's really quite good, but we need this, and this. And as a creative, you have to turn around and go, why? That's spoiling the essence of what we've just given you here. Yeah. Pete's also saying here, the BBC had a cracking shop in town here in Liverpool with a full-size Dalek by the counter. I remember that shop well, Pete. I really do. Sadly gone now. It must have made money. I also remember the big one just at the beginning, just at the top of Fleet Street in London, the BBC shop there, which had all the paraphernalia from various shows that you could get at the time, and occasionally you go in, but they had one Doctor Who drop, because this is before it came back. So occasionally, if you couldn't find anything, you could go in there, and it was going to be in there because nobody ever went in. But it's one of those things. TARDIS Spider wants to know, Brendan, do you know Compo? Well, he's dead now, isn't he?
Yeah, you were neighbours. That's how it works. Yeah.
Yes, I have his clothes next to it.
It's a beautiful part of the world, though. I love that part of the world, though, because when if you go, you get that tour, don't you? From the show, The Last of the Summer Wine, and it's a great one. I've been on that tour. It's brilliant. I really enjoyed it. Nora Batty's house.
You've got all The Last of the Summer Wine, Heartbeat, and you've got All Creatures Great and Small.
Oh, I saw Heartbeat in the lockdown. I didn't like that. Edwin, like I said, good curries in Sheffield, and don't forget Ken Worthington lives in South York. Who's Ken Worthington? Enlighten me. I don't know who that is. We got here. We watched sci-fi when they dreamed of what effects could do. Now overuse of effects is a nightmare. And Pete's saying, spread the wealth, BBC. I'm not sure, Pete, that the BBC actually is wealthy now because, of course, they are funded by the license payer. We've got people cancelling the license, but we've also got an awful lot of people that just haven't bothered to register for a license in the first place. It's a bit like the voting system in our country. They just haven't done it. So we do know that there's an awful lot of people in the country watching the BBC without a TV license and television without a license. And you can't say how many because we're packed in the country, aren't we? We've got so many people here now. Meddling Funk, rubbish football teams in Sheffield. That's for you, that one.
I agree.
Yeah. And Pete's been controversial. He's saying with Everton here. My auntie will not be happy with you, Pete, I tell you. We've got all this here. Oh, what's this? Put the heads of BBC on commission. Commission salespeople have to please. They're going to have to change, though, TARDIS. The whole thing about the BBC, it hasn't really changed. It's a model from when it was set up 100 years ago, really, and the license fee came in after that. It hasn't really changed that model. They are going to have to adapt, but they're struggling to see how. They can't do it, and until the government, whichever government we happen to have at the time, come in and have the balls to say, right, we're going to scrap it or not scrap it or whatever. It's a very confused minefield.
The bizarre thing about they're really resistant to taking advertising, which is probably the way to go.
And yet they do, don't they?
Yeah, they don't. Yeah, well, they advertise their own shows, but they don't advertise
But there is product placement for things. Yeah, I've heard if you watch something like EastEnders or one of those soapy things you do, you can see a box of Kellogg's or you can see a Warburton.
Right. They don't do the Blue Peter thing and have masking tape over
Apparently that's no longer there. No, apparently not anymore. Because they used to be very strict in our day. We were kids. Yeah. That was one of the beauty things of Blue Peter. They would always say, "Now you have to get a margarine tub," and there'd be a great big different coloured piece of sticky tape over the brand because they weren't getting money. It's so funny. Oh, here we go. Ken Worthington is John Shuttleworth's sole agent, the one with the afro and the Cuban heels that was on New Face. Okay. Oh, that's brilliant. I love that.
The BBC will be one of the first to tell us. Now, there may even be a Doctor Who plot that talks about the cost of living crisis, but those who are in other parts of the country can't quickly get to London, especially when there's a rail strike on and there's lots of other marches going on.
And the motorways are massive, aren't they? They're packed.
And when the government, in their wisdom years ago, told the BBC to kind of move into the provinces, they really begrudgingly went to Cardiff, the capital of Wales, that already had the Millennium Stadium and piles of money being pumped into it. And they went to Manchester, which was already doing very well. They hardly really moved where the BBC were being told to the real region.
It's true. And yet some of these new buildings that they've got are rented. Like I do believe that the Media City in Salford Quays, the BBC rent the space. So that's license fee payers' money. Whereas they owned White City.
Yeah.
Oh, they sold TV Centre. What the hell was that?
I know. And what happened to that money? Did it come back into programming because it's license fee? I remember, guys, years ago, Janet Fielding was at an interview, and she was remembering her time in Doctor Who, and the flavour in the 80s at White City of the BBC was the accountants will get it one day. And then she was coming back to what they did eventually, and she was absolutely right because they did. The accountants did eventually get hold of the BBC, and it's all about that. And then you've got all this other stuff coming on the top. It's not about entertainment anymore, really. It's about numbers and what can work there. So to have Doctor Who through BBC Wales, Bad Wolf, contributing so well to the GVA of the Welsh economy and also a total UK contribution to the British economy. Congratulations with that. But it does lead me to my next point is why would you want to rock the boat with that? Why would you want to possibly, just for the sake of preaching, why would you want to, put that in a dangerous position where people could actually do what they've done over the last few years and switch off? Why would you upset your fan base? And yes, it is time because we are going to be looking right now at Davos Gate. This is the story that, of course, started last Friday. It was and went on into the 60th anniversary month itself. where Russell T Davies has confirmed that Davros will now be cancelled. He has reimagined our beloved Davros from what we knew, power mad, very clever scientist. He will no longer be looking anything like this. He will no longer be in his life support system, and he will be looking like this. He's going to be able-bodied again. Now, we've talked about this very briefly before on our show, but it does make the headlines for this month, so we do have to revisit it now. The reason for this, well, it was this, wasn't it? This is what came from the Doctor Who Unleashed afterwards. This was Russell explaining he's a wheelchair user who is evil. A lot of us on the production team had problems with that, and I had problems with that. As Paul is saying there, hashtag justice for Davros, which is where we stand very much on this channel. I really still can't get over this. I mean, until he opened his big gob, was Davros seen as problematic? No. He was seen as one of the genius, iconic British science fiction classic characters ever. Absolutely. I mean, come on. I mean, this is ridiculous.
I think what he's doing is he's making an assumption that everyone feels the same way, and they don't. And I think what he's doing is, I think his crusade to try and create a better world is admirable, but he's not asking the people he's trying to protect. A lot of people are upset about the fact that he was described as a wheelchair user, and it's not a wheelchair; it's a life support system. He's half. My wife said this. She sees him as a half Dalek, which is exactly what he is.
Well, that's what he is.
Yeah, so it's like, and my wife's a not we person.
A not we, yeah.
So it's like, yeah.
Yeah, well, bearing in mind that Davros, as we know, was introduced in Genesis of the Daleks in 1975. It's like I said on our show on Diamond Day. If you've got problems, if these new woke production teams who are terrified of saying the wrong thing and saying boo to a goose and getting things wrong, and it's all about inclusion and diversity and all that nonsense. But if they're so worried about this, then don't revisit the past, because can you imagine what they could possibly do now? I mean, we had this incident a few years ago where Talons of Weng Chiang was under attack.
Yeah.
Now, I did check via a friend of mine. Now, that is still on the iPlayer, but for how much longer? Because it's problematic. Yeah. How much longer will 26 years of original Doctor Who, because it was made in different times when we weren't as sensitive and we were just telling stories about science fiction characters, how much longer will we have the original Doctor Who around for?
And this is the thing, it's about perceived offence. Now, the Dr. Donner concept that was there in 2010, Dr. Donner, wouldn't that be an offensive plot line for people who have relatives who have dementia in the family, that you can take away somebody's memories so easily as a plot device? Now, because the point is, the Davros wheelchair evil connection that RTD and the production team, i.e. Disney, have made is a real tight prism. And I just, you're saying justice for Davros there, Paul. I mean, if we're a loving, kind world nowadays. If Davros wanted to rehabilitate himself, because he's told me already, he's really jealous of the wheelchair he saw last night. Can he have one?
That was very Bond, wasn't it? I expected to see something like that in James Bond.
I thought at one point she was going to fly in the wheelchair, but that's
going to happen. That's going to happen. The little jets will come out. Woo! Yeah. I don't know who that actress was, because I've never seen her, but I actually took to her. I thought she was very good. I liked her.
Madly, yeah.
I thought it was a nice character. I thought, here's a nice character. I could get into that, and she's coming back apparently, isn't she? But I thought, and I like the little way she's got all the little James Bond gadgets on the chair. I don't know about the weapons though. Let's talk about problematic in this day and age right now where we are. Weapons in a wheelchair.
Well, the main problem comes down to is it's the intention of offending people. Just get on with it. It's like if you analyze every nth degree of Doctor Who or anything in life,
what they're doing, isn't it?
You're gonna offend everybody at some point. So let's just, be a bit more confident in yourself and try and just go with the flow,
But that's why I'm fascinated, because mental health is one of the terms nowadays everyone uses. I think Yasmin Finney last night on Unleashed said she had PTSD from being a kid being bullied. She did say
What's
that. She said the dialogue in last night's episode, and you know the moment when she's getting picked on. She said when she went through it, it gave her PTSD from when she was a kid being bullied at school. So, you know, the PTSD term, the mental health thing, and I know as a teacher, the kids really are sensitive to lots of stuff and are triggered quite quickly, I have to say. And if that's really the vibe, and I'm not going to fight it, don't you think the Dr. Donna narrative is pretty offensive to nearly every family in the country struggling with a relative with dementia, losing their memories? I tell you what, they've missed
I
a
actually
trick.
think that the PTSD aspect is quite offensive as well, because I was bullied at school, but I know this is not the
I think
Jerry
most of us
Springer-
would have been, isn't
Yeah.
it, Paul?
It's not the Jerry Springer show, this I know, but I was bullied at school, and I can relate to being bullied, you know. So, but it's kind of like, it's like, I think it's a bit slightly offensive to people who were at war, who were soldiers and stuff, who did suffer really severely from being at war and stuff. So I think it's quite I think that's quite what's the word, disrespectful to them, you know. But
I totally agree with what you're both saying here, and as I said, though, if Davros was problematic to this lot, leave him be. Leave him in the past. This obsession that these people seem to have and this is why I keep saying now, I'm convinced you should never let a fan run the show they are a fan of, because they bring in their own little things, and this is what they're all three of them are guilty of this. But to go back to something from so long ago and say, "Ooh, we want to use that, but I can't," come up with something different. Just come up with something different. We've got Crimpling to Bloom in the chat here saying, without his life support system, when shot at the end of Genesis, Davros would be dead. Did Destiny and everything afterwards not happen now in Russell's new and better canon? As fans, that's an excellent question, isn't it? Garbage is saying here, the only offense caused is when RTD changed it. I'd agree with that wholeheartedly. Because as I say, until he opened his big gob, nobody had even thought about it. Mark is saying, not a wise move to remove an iconic character. And just before the 60th anniversary launch, you want to keep as many viewers as possible. But how much market research did? Well, none, because he doesn't care. He doesn't care, does he? He's big, he's powerful, and he knows it. That's why I think sometimes he's dangerous.
A lot of people who do use wheelchairs, who are fans, because we've seen them on X and everything.
And like Daniel, our friend Scottish Davros.
Exactly. They've made an alternative view. I tell you what, true equality is when everybody's seen as bad and good on telly in representations. You don't just say, oh my God, that person's disabled. We always have to make them look virtuous. Oh, you can't. No, that's not equality. Everybody is seen as included in the world, bad and good. And let's be honest.
Well, no, you're right. And the thing is as well, I mean, you're saying that the world is slightly better today. To a point it is, but it's the balance, isn't it? I look around me, and some things from when we were kids as well, some things are better, some things aren't, you know? And from my point of view and what I'm involved in now, I look at the erosion of women's rights, which were fought for decades, as a bad thing. And I can't believe that in the 21st century, women are having to fight for their rights again, because all this stuff has come on, you know, and I just find, as a gay man, I'm finding homophobia on the rise again from people that are apparently on the right side of history. You know, and you can see that coming through. There's a lot of gay men and women who are fighting for this, and I don't think they generally see the full bigger picture of, well, actually, some of the stuff you're standing for is homophobic. So it's a balance, isn't it? Really, some is good, some is really worrying.
And it's no longer just an issue about what we'd say are minorities, like being gay or something. It actually, and I started the program talking about the class issue. Lots of the British population and American population and populations in liberal democracies are silenced now and are seen as they should be cancelled. They shouldn't be heard. They've got the wrong opinions. And there's a whole majority of countries who are now not really deemed as worthy with their voice or opinion, and this is disgraceful.
And we're now seeing the repercussions of that, aren't we, in our country as well. You know, how can you have a wrong opinion? You can disagree with an opinion, but it's somebody's right to have that. And this is where democracy, especially from these people in show business, the way I see it, is being dismantled because they're contributing and they're actually promoting compelled speech.
Yep.
Now, the last person to do that, well, it didn't end up very well for him, did it? But I sometimes see that's where we are going. Pete Harrington's putting a nice little thing into the chat here as well. In fact, not just going, I think we're there. My niece wouldn't like me to turn my great nephew's baby crawler into Davros' support system with cardboard and ping pong balls, but she said no. I have seen some of those things, Pete, on the social media where they do that, and the kids are just like, you know, they're loving every minute of it. Lex is saying here, Ruth Madley, thank you. That was the actress's name, was the best thing in last night's episode. I really liked her character. She was. There was something about the way she played. And yeah, was she from Yorkshire? There was an accent there. Was she from? It was quite bizarre. Yeah, like that. So that's good there. What else we got here as well? Thank you for all your comments. Keep them coming in. Tardy Spider is saying here, this is absolutely where I am. I'm in charge, therefore I am right. Russell, don't drop the T.
What concerns me is, narratively speaking, how this is going to pan out. If they weren't going to use Davros, if they were just trying to put up their stall and show we're going to be agenda based in terms of what we're doing in the show going forward, if they're going to use Davros now, so Davros will be this more human figure, someone who's able-bodied, then are they going to explore that story going forward with Shooty, or will he be in the specials? So if they're not, like we said earlier, JT, why tamper with the character?
Yeah.
Just leave them in the past and move on.
Well, why not just bring in another white, male, possibly heterosexual villain? I'm sure that's going to be happening in the next series.
Who has mostly had able-bodied villains. If you wanted to do, somebody had done some analysis. Most of the villains are able-bodied, let's be honest. So what's the point?
Or monsters.
Yeah.
How do you represent a monster?
That's the joke about the 60s and 70s, whether they're in PVC or something, or rubber costume, they've still got two legs.
I have heard he's coming after the monoids because they've only got one eye. So, you know, we'll see how that one goes. I mean, really. I mean, this was the whole point, though. And in the anniversary week as well, it did kick off a little bit here. Well, a little bit. It kicked off. Let's say that, Who viewers. In The Independent, Russell T. Davies reveals the reason behind the change to iconic Doctor Who villains. Society has moved on. I would argue that in a very grown-up and mature way to say, right, the way you think it and the way show business is dictating that society has moved on is not the real world. I don't think it has moved up and changed with your ideology. I think it's still in reality.
As you say, it's a balance, and they're showing Shirley Ann Bingham as a wheelchair user. She's a positive figure. If you're going to show that as more representation, that's great. And then show the balance with the fact that Davros is an evil wheelchair user if he is, and then you've got the balance, and you're showing two sides of the coin.
And don't make disabled people, don't make people with mental health issues as triggered people and sensitive people. The thing is, that Scottish Davros has gone mad because and trans people, some trans people are going mad because they don't want to be made into an issue. They just want to live their lives. And for somebody able-bodied or white or something to say, I am triggered and offended by this, they're saying, no, please don't do that. I want to be included. I want to be accepted. I want to laugh. If you think Davros is a Mickey take of a wheelchair user, I'm laughing about it, says Scottish Davros. You know, please include us. And that the thing is, when we talk about minorities or anybody who's got problems with life, they sometimes like to be included in the humour and the laugh as well, because to be put into a different category where nobody touches it means you're not included.
And can I just say something? Doctor Who is a fantasy. It's not real. Okay, so you can suspend disbelief, can't you? Yeah.
Well, it was a fantasy. Yes. I've been saying this for years now, though, since the reboot came back, and I don't know what we're calling this version, because we know it's series 1 that's about to come, isn't it? Which has also upset certain amount of fans. We were going to come to that, but I'll mention it now. You know, the fact that they've said that the next series we're shooting at is series 1 has upset some of the younger fans here. Well, welcome to our bloody world. Since 2005. Welcome to where we are, kids.
The bizarre thing about that is, though, we're all going to just call it season 14 anyway. It doesn't make any difference.
It's actually season 40.
Yeah, 40 or 14.
If it's supposed to be the whole show, it would be number 40, wouldn't it? Is my maths right? Yeah, something along those lines. But the other thing, of course, that happened with Davros Gate is, as we are doing now, throughout the entire week, of course, fans actually spoke out. We all had something to say. We all took to YouTube. We all took to the social medias. The backlash was massive. But were BBC Studios and Bad Wolf interested at all? No. And we've got these examples, haven't we? This was from Robbie Gardner on X. Davros isn't a wheelchair user. He's a partially mutated Khalid in a life support system halfway between Khalid and Dalek. Like, I was perfectly fine seeing Davros pre-accident. I think a lot of fans have wanted to see this for some time, but to insist that this is for, quote, better representation of disabled people, unquote, is just utterly bizarre. If we're now going to pretend, as you suggest, Davros was never in the chair, or he just got better, well, that undermines one of the greatest villains who ever created. I would agree with that. But a certain Mr. Russell Don't Drop the T Davis responded with, tough.
Yeah. Now we know what the T stands for.
We had this one as well. DW Boy 14, hello to you. Will you be changing the Cybermen next so it doesn't upset our friends with prosthetic limbs? Because as we said on our Diamond Day show, the Cybermen will now be problematic. Russell Don't Drop the T gets back with, oh, poor baby. I cannot stand it when these alleged fans themselves look at the majority of fandom and look down. They look down on us and they just despise us because we will not do what they tell us. We will not talk with their compelled speech. We will not bend the knee to their hard left ideology. And there's the proof on there. You're alienating the fans. And it's so disappointing at this point in the 60th anniversary year. And he knew this last year when he was writing and filming. So God help us for the next set of episodes into next year. He had the opportunity to bring everybody back and just give us good science fiction, fantasy drama, and forget the kitchen sink and forget the politics and just write a good, because even the cult would have come into a good science fiction drama. He had the opportunity to bring us all back to say, wow, that was amazing. I'm going to go and buy the merchandise. I'm going to wear the t-shirt. I'm going to buy the action figures, blah, blah, blah. But no, he had to continue what had been done over the last few years. And he doubled down and he had to keep separating and dividing us even more so this week. I am so disappointed in that.
I'm just disappointed that he's actually engaged that way, because I expected to be bigger than that, because I think it's an awful way to show yourself and show yourself up, to be honest. You know, that response tough, and then the poor baby crying your eyes out emoji kind of thing. It's really quite nasty, isn't it?
It's horrible.
You almost wonder if there's some. I know I don't want to do this because I in some ways I do think when I watched RTD, for example, sat next to Yasmin Finney being interviewed.
Oh,
I did think he looks as though he does think he's doing the right thing.
He does. That's what's harmful. Yeah, go on.
Yeah.
You know, and I've lost my point. It doesn't matter. But the point is, it's so disappointing this because. Oh, yeah, I was going to say, but on the other hand, the way we were surprised, everybody was surprised by what he said just a week or so back, was there almost relish there, because RTD is a good publicist. He's like J&T. He knows how to build a show and build an audience. And to surprise the audience like that, he must have known it would surprise everybody. And so, therefore, I have to detect, was there relish in that surprise?
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
You see, I wasn't surprised by this at all because... You know, I will always refer back to his rants at various showbiz awards, 2 of them at least last year, where he's surrounded by people who will kiss his arse, either because they're frightened of him or because they agree with him. And they are basically the TQI cult. They're all around him here. They're all part of this. Even David Tennant has been taking part in the publicity with a very bizarre badge on. Anyway. Shows how misinformed some people can be, allegedly. So you've got all this sort of stuff coming on here, but those rants last year were absolutely him. He is not the same guy he was in 2003, 2004, 2005 onwards. He's not there. He's different. He's totally different. And he knows what he's doing. He knows he's going to say something that's going to annoy people. That doesn't help your show. Don't annoy people. We've got it in here as well. TARDIS Spider. So RTD from his ivory tower is talking down to the masses. Yes. Why? Or is he or is he in the Tower of Rassilon? I'd know where I'd rather he'd be. Garbage is saying it's so disappointing. Now the fans will copy RTD responses. We've already seen that again in the Breakfast Show. Going back to that particular example of that young man who was kicked off Twitter X because he issued a very blatant death threat to a majority. So quite rightly he was kicked off. But I guarantee you they'll be supporting him in some way or other, these people that are around that. It's just ridiculous.
To be fair, it's not the first time some Doctor Who fan has threatened someone with death. Look at Michael Grade.
Oh well, poor old Michael Gray had to deal with it, but yeah. But you know, I mean, that was just nonsense as well, isn't it? But to see that it's coming right now, and that people supported him as well. People actually support. I mean, in our day, we turned around and said, "Don't be bloody stupid, slap." You know what I mean? It's a TV show. Whereas now they were going, yes, because it's more of the issues coming into it, which he is actually supporting. But they turn a blind eye to certain things, don't they?
But it's very ironic. I was looking at Garbage's comment there as well. It's very ironic that his argument and dialogue at the moment is he's wanting to espouse a non-binary dialogue when actually his setting out of his argument about Davros and everything is actually very binary. And this is the problem we've got in fandom, which is everything's very binary. There's no discussion in the middle. There's no explanation. There's no trying to convince, trying to persuade. It's tough, shut up, no.
That's dictated.
Binary. That's very binary. And the irony is, while he's trying to espouse non-binary, his argument is so binary. If you're not with us, clear off.
If you're not with us, you are evil. And you should be castrated. I mean, that's what he said there. Last year, don't forget, last year, in front of his adoring sector, his industry, he basically said that anyone that uses their democratic right to vote in a way he doesn't agree with are murderers. I will never forgive him for that, because we are in a democracy. Just still, you are dismantling it. Those people are dismantling it day by day and chipping away with the compelled speech and everything like that. But it's so frustrating, because you're right, Brendan. I mean, they're so hypocritical, these people. I've been trying to say this for a little while. The left hand does one thing, the right hand does the other thing, and it doesn't merge sometimes, and they contradict themselves completely. And that's for all this non-binary stuff. Oh, listen, keep the fantasy in your own little worlds, will you? You're a human being. Grow up.
He's a very successful and very skilled and talented,
and powerful,
producer and writer. But he's sounding at times, and you've quoted a few, where he sounds like a zealot. And zealots have blind spots. That's the danger.
Many of them we're seeing. I'd like to say good morning to our friend Michael Java Bean. He's joined us in the chat as well. Nice to see you, mate. Thank you for joining us. He's saying here, how come gender can be fluid but opinions can't be?
Yeah, exactly.
Absolutely. I love that. We've got here, I had it this morning. I was told if I didn't like it, turn off, change channel. And that's what people have done for years now. They have done that. Exactly. If they don't like it, they are using the pad, but nobody's listening to that. Are they garbage? I said, how do I know if I don't like it, if I don't watch it? And then I was told in the old days we had adult conversation. Oh, I told it, right? I told it because you don't know who you were talking to. That's the danger these days, and then you get harassed or put onto bloody YouTube. The old days we had adult conversations. We did, but we had adult conversations were based around common sense and scientific fact. We didn't find ourselves in daily conversations about fantasy gaga land, did we? It's just ridiculous. And Lex is saying here, it's all narcissism. I would have put that in capitals, my friend, because it absolutely is. It just is absolutely. I mean, oh God, where's Joan Rivers? But yeah, I mean, we had all this sort of stuff, coming through. It was bizarre, and yeah, we also mentioned this on Diamond Day. I've got it again now, but I just want to big up yet again the only journalist that I saw that was honest and unfearing in the world that they live in. Now, it's Neil Armstrong from BBC Culture itself, who gave one of the first honest reviews, the only honest review, but one of the first reviews ever of the Starbeast, because he went to the press launch, you see. A lot of fan-pleasing stuff in it, was there? The sonic screwdriver seems to have had a serious operating system upgrade. That is an understatement. A promising new character. Hurrah! Shirley Ann Bingham, I'd agree with these, played by Ruth Madley, is introduced. She's scientific advisor number 56 to the Doctor's one-time employer. That was a continuity error, Mr. Russell T. Davis. There was a lady called Liz Shaw before the Doctor, you may remember. That's me being a fanfare, so that's one up for me.
But get your facts right. That's the thing. Yeah.
Exactly. If
Yeah.
you've been indifferent to Doctor Who, this won't be the episode to convert you. I totally agree with that now we've seen it. And if you're altogether new to the show, you'll probably wonder what all the fuss has been about. Totally agree with that as well. And then there was the big one here as well. And although the show has always been progressive, look at the number of stories over the decades about, for example, threats to the environment. This special is preachy and by the end, little more than a delivery system for the message. He was totally right. Little more than a delivery system for the message. And now that we've seen that, we can actually say we understand what he was saying there very clearly, can't we? But, you know, Mr. Armstrong, congratulations for being absolutely truthful.
I'm impressed it's within the BBC and they've not, you know, it's not been doctored, no pun intended, you know.
Well, you know, yeah, I mean, I hope he's still able, I mean, he's freelance. So I hope he's still going to get work, because these people, as we know, they love cancelling you, they love stopping your career, they love calling you an istophobe or whatever, you know. And I think it's refreshing to actually have somebody who's doing the bloody job and giving his take on, as a critic is supposed to do. Because all these things we see now, of course, is, oh, it's brilliant, it's marvelous, this is going to shake the world, oh, it's groundbreaking, oh, it's this politic, it's that politic, oh, it's wonderful, and then it flops. Marvel.
I've had a little browse this morning. There have been a few reviews have come out, which we can talk about later tonight, but there's been quite a lot of positive ones. I've not found any other negative ones so far, which is interesting.
I wouldn't say his was even negative. I'd just say it's truthful.
Yeah. Truthful,
yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, you mentioned that. I mean, because you mentioned the sonic screwdriver, and you know, I find it funny because I've really praised RTD as well, haven't I?
Yeah, you're a big fan, aren't you? You're a big fan.
Well, I do think he is, but I have to say, I will knock that, because JNT would be appalled because he got rid of the sonic screwdriver, saying, I don't want an easy get out. Well, it's bad.
There's the point. Yeah, you're right. I just want to go back briefly as well, just to balance it up slightly as well, what you were saying there, Brendan, as well. I did see the clip of that thing with Unleashed where RTD is sitting with Yasmin Finney. I understand his statement. I understand what he's saying. But as a gay man, the alarm bells did go off in my head, because I understand he's coming from actually quite a nice place that I'm sure we all go to, that we want to be tolerant of each other. We all want to live together. But to suggest that he wanted to, and I'm paraphrasing here, so don't quote me, to suggest that he wants to write this stuff in so we can get the messages in front of the children.
Yeah.
It's done with love. That's the trouble. I mean, that's the trouble, and you can't defeat that. And that you don't want to in some ways, but you can see his affection, and I think he really liked Yasmin Finney, and I think obviously they've talked as well, and he knows other people who are trans, and I think he is coming from a good place. The trouble is, you could do a drama, you could do a new Brookside soap, but don't, you know, it just.
I think it's well intentioned. The thought behind it is really positive. It's really good, but there must be a better way of doing it and a more effective way of doing it if you are going to use it in the series. I don't think it was overly effective from last night, but that's another point for tonight.
Well, yeah, make sure you write that down. It's but that, I mean, this was all. I mean, I think this was an indication to a lot of fans when Davos Gate broke, and this came out. I think this was an awful lot of indication of what fans had actually been tinkering on, balancing about for the last year since we knew he was coming back. My belief is now actually, get off Doctor Who, go back to Channel 4, get yourself doing a trans drama. It's obviously what you want to do, and just get a series done with that and see if people watch it, because it's not right for Doctor Who, in my humble opinion. But from my point of view, this will always be Davros. You can bring in your new version if you want to, played by whoever. This is Julian Bleach here at all. It will not be the same. It will never be the same if you do that. You know, I
love
just
that picture. That's a great picture.
It's a great picture from Rehearsal Shop from back in the day, from 2008. I just think, no, just leave be. If don't mess with the heritage characters. If you don't want them, if you want to mess with them, come up with your own version and do something else. Leave the geniuses of 26 years worth of continual British classic television. Leave that work alone. Terry Nation is a far better writer than a lot of you lot. Far better.
And it was interesting. And it was interesting. I saw an interview with Nabil Shaban about this, and he was saying that he did have questions about his Syl character, but once he read the script and understood, he didn't think it was using him because he had a disability. He felt it fitted what the show was. He was this strange amphibious creature, and he thought it had artistic integrity. He fair dues, he had questions about whether you were just using me to do this, that, and the other. But so I understand there's always been questions about this creatively, but Nabil Shaban at the time thought the Sil was acceptable because it fitted in with who he was, an amphibian.
And as we know from our Vengeance on Varos review, Nabil joined us. He ran with it, didn't he? Created a wonderful, along with the writer, of course, Philip Martin. He created a wonderful character. But I was 15 at the time. I didn't realize Nabil was disabled. I thought that's clever. They've put it on something there. That must be CC. That's very clever. I didn't realize until later on. I think it was Blue Peter or in the magazine or something. I don't know.
You can see later on in Mind Warp when they've got, I think, some actors like Christopher Ryan who are able-bodied.
Able-bodied, yeah, but small.
They've got obviously different ways of working the costume, which is interesting how they did that.
But I've been asked by friends this week, would Nabil get work now? I don't know. Nabs, if you're watching,
he should.
What do you think of all this? Let us know. I bloody well, yeah, because the acting comes through.
Yeah,
but I mean, is he problematic now to do? I don't know. Doc MD74 Mark is saying here, if it all gets too hard to watch, I can always go back and enjoy my classic Who. I would like to keep my childhood love and reason for still liking this show alive. Absolutely with you, and I can guarantee you here on Who's Views, we will be doing a lot more. It's very surprising when you start looking at 26 years of time and space travel, how much content you can get. And we've got lots of plans to take us through to 2024 to cheer us up for anything that might be problematic to all of us. Garbage is also saying here, this episode won't last 3 years, let alone 10 years. Imagine saying to children, watch an episode about Beep the Meep. Beep was hardly the star of a centre of attention. I want to come back to that tonight.
Yeah,
if you're joining with us, please remind me, because you know what I'm like now. Please remind me of that, because I was a little bit disappointed that my favorite villain from the comic strips of all time wasn't really in the bloody show.
Sidelined,
Oh gosh, we've got some great. Thank you everybody for joining us. We've got some great comments here this morning on the breakfast show. Goodness me, Tyler Spider's right with this one as well. If you didn't look for a handicap, you looked at the performance. Totally, I keep saying this now, Terry. You know, I am more aware of people's differences in the last 4 or 5 years than I have been in my entire life. And believe me, I've been around the block a lot. From what I can remember, I've met all sorts of walks of life and people and various exotic creatures, I can assure you. But I never, ever saw the label, if you like, the branding. And now I see everything. And it makes me more aware that we have problems and issues in society. And I don't know where it's come from. And I find it incredibly disappointing. Pete's also saying, brilliant character still. Yes, we did.
It is interesting. Again, we'll talk about time, but I think Russell tends to date his productions, and like 10 years time there will be like, well, that's really out of date now. So it's
that's the problem I have with Modern Who. If you go back and watch anything from 2005, it's grounded in 2005 or 2006. I mean, as I keep pointing out, we do have an episode where the lovely, the gorgeous, and Musmich Barbara Windsor comes through. But who is going to know Barbara Windsor in 20, 30 years' time? With the original Doctor Who, we still talk about it today, don't we? We're making an entire channel based around the content of those lovely shows because it's not set. It's not set in the real modern day. Even the unit stories are supposed to be 10 minutes in the future. We'll never get there. It's wonderful. Anyway, DavrosGate was, I would say, a very disappointing element of the 60th anniversary year and month. November 2023. Wow, what a show so far. Thank you so much for joining us all. Delighted to see you all. This is Sunday Breakfast Live. I'm here with Brendan, and I'm here with Paul, and I'm here with myself. And it's coming up to already 11:30. So Russell T. Davis and David Tennant were out and about in this promotional week, as we would expect. They were on practically everything. They were making appearances on the One Show, BBC Radio 2 shows. There's a brand new show I didn't know about as well, called, what is it called? BBC Morning. Morning Live. I never even heard of that, probably because I don't watch BBC television or television in general. When did that start? Don't want to know. But it seemed to be the usual Richard and Judy type formula thing. It's as though they're trying yet again, the BBC's trying yet again to take on This Morning. They've smelt the blood. They've smelt the blood on this morning, haven't they?
It's got the lovely Gethin Jones on it. Which
There's lovely. The lovely Gethin Jones in more than one way. But
steady the buffs.
Yes, morning totty there. I think we can call Gethin. Oh, that's probably problematic. But on one of the shows as well, I don't know if you guys caught this, but on the show that Russell was on what's it called? Morning Live, BBC Morning Live.
Morning Live, yeah.
Thank you. That's a very predictable title. It's just like Sunday Breakfast Live, isn't it? Anyway, he did announce some casting, and it's this. He's announced that Shirley Ballas, who's the head judge on Strictly Come Dancing on the BBC, this is all on Wednesday the 22nd, by the way, will be appearing in a forthcoming series of Doctor Who with the gentleman on the right who is one of the professional dancers in Strictly. This is Johannes Radeby. I apologize if I've said that wrong, but I don't know who you are. But Shirley Ballas I know, because Shirley Ballas, of course, is huge in the ballroom dancing circuit. She was champion galore back in her day there. Wonderful choreographer as well, and a superb, beautiful mover on the ballroom. Yes, I have to admit, I have studied some ballroom in my time. I think it's beautiful and elegant. It's all different these days. But
rumba queen, isn't she? That's what she is. The rumba.
It's never been the same since they took the numbers off the back of the contestants. Remember?
In the original Come Dancing, like they used to do in the ballroom.
That was done by Daleks, wasn't it? The Daleks had numbers on their back as well.
Well, there we go. So these people are the lovely Shirley Ballas there. She's from Liverpool as well, Pete. She's from Liverpool. She's a Liverpool lass. They are going to be in a forthcoming Shooty Gatwa episode. And then also on the back of that, it was announced, I don't know if any of you have seen this, that this young lady, this is Nicola Coughlan, who's a Galway-based actress. She's going to be appearing in a episode with Shooty Gatwa. Now, this one I found predictable because she was in the Barbie movie with Shooty, and she also attended one of the Barbie premiere, one of the premieres for Barbie with Shooty, and there was a lovely chemistry between the two of them. And I thought, oh, they're working together again. It's a bit obvious that's coming
Nepotism.
in.
Nepotism.
Bless you. Nicola herself, you may know her from Bridgerton, if any of us watched that, which I seriously doubt, which is over on the Netflix platform. But I know her from the absolutely fantastic and hilarious Derry Girls, which had me wetting myself, Who viewers. I loved that series, Derry Girls, set in the 90s as well, which is a very happy time from what I can remember. And so so she's coming into Doctor Who, and a lovely quote from her: "I'm excited to join the Whoniverse under the leadership of the inimitable RTD. I've been a fan of Shooty for some time, and getting to share the screen with him as the Doctor has been an absolute joy." I think this is going to be the 2025 series she appears in. But don't quote me. But it's nice to have an actor like that really excited about coming into the show still, isn't it? Really, but I don't know what you guys thought about that.
I think it's great to have someone like that. She's very talented, very good actor. But I think it's interesting employing people from similar things, because it's done the same with some of the Disney writers coming on board who wrote for Loki and stuff like that, and coming on board to do Doctor Who for Disney, which is interesting. A lot of nepotism.
And the Strictly
allegedly. Sorry.
Having Shirley Ballas might be interesting because there is this suggested musical episode, isn't there?
Oh, yes.
And so
yes,
get two top stars of dance as part of. I can see this cabaret setup. I can see a kind of.
Yes, I can. I can.
So, I'm sure it's a cameo. But to get stars like that, and it's like it's not stunt casting. They're very talented. But
I think it is. I think it is as well. They are brilliantly talented. I'm a big fan of Shirley. I
can see the Doctor strutting his stuff on the dance floor as well. I can see it coming.
Possibly. I mean,
the Doctor dances apparently, and this is a different meaning to it entirely. So.
As the drag queen is singing, won't it? That'll be it. It'll
be. God!
It's that episode. I'm sure it is.
I mean, Shirley said this is one of the best experiences of her life. I don't think there's anything wrong with a ballroom scenario or something like that in a story. Why shouldn't the TARDIS materialize outside of a ballroom or a nice sort of 1930s tea dance sort of thing? Why shouldn't it? It's down to the story, isn't it, Paul?
It's more likely going to be a bit like they did with the little cameos of
Babs.
Sharon Osbourne and stuff like that, and when they have them on a TV program, a bit like Barbara Windsor you mentioned earlier.
Yeah.
There'll be a shot of Strictly Come Dancing on the telly in Millie's house or something, and that's what it'll be. It'll be that, it won't be part of the episode. I bet it'll be some brief cameo.
I think
I do as well.
Yeah,
I think there might be in some sort of ballroom cabaret setup, and I think if it's a musical episode, I know that's my one theory, that there might be in it for 2 or 3 minutes dancing while things are going on in the background, and
Yeah. Again, it's down to context of the story. It could be quite fun. It could be. I can just see certain doctors. I'm thinking Tom and Matt Smith predominantly running into a ballroom. Stop everything! That sort of thing. And then Shirley Ballas's character turning around. I can see her going, "What? Excuse me, we're having a competition."
I'd love to get Sylvester McCoy come in and do that little lovely dance he did with Ray and Delta.
Oh my God, yeah. So we've got some great comments with that. TARDIS Badge, as you can see here, is saying musical world. Well, the world of fiction worked. I don't think it'd be that way. Wasn't the Star Beast a musical episode? Was it? I love that. Pete's saying here, I can see it now, a Christmas in Heaven number Python style. Mark saying the Doctor has to dance the foxtrot to save the world. We shouldn't laugh at these things because this can actually happen now. It really can. And also, yes, Pete, Shirley Ballas is a Scouser. She is from Liverpool. Crimply de Bloom said that never seen Strictly. That's absolutely fine. You're not really missing that much, to be quite honest, mate. It's brilliant. Get your tuxes out. Yes. I know it's TARDIS Spiders. Your point, Paul. Working with people instead of reaching out to a checkbox. That's how they used to do things. They were, but in those days, in the original days, of course, we used to have these reps here as well, where they all knew each other anyway. And directors would always go to the ones that they knew were going to turn up on time, have the lines ready, be able to build a character. Today, there is an element, as Paul says, that of narcissism. Oh, that person's big in that YouTube show, or that person's big on that, or that could draw in my extrovert. This is JNT to an extreme.
If you look at the casting of Shooty himself, he's got 2 million followers, hasn't he?
It doesn't matter because they're not all going to come to the show. They're not going to get 2 million people watching Doctor Who. And the great British public, as I said on Diamond Day, they don't know him. They don't know him because they don't watch Sex Education on Netflix. It's just
I think he looked good in the couple of clips they showed in the little McGann trailer thing they did. Have you seen that?
I haven't seen that yet. I'll watch it at some point. When I'm brave enough, I'll watch it.
I think it's 60. It's 60 years and 60 seconds or something. It's a lovely.
Oh yes, I have seen that one. I think I blinked.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's it. If you blink, you'll miss him. It's a lovely shot of him. I have to say, but yeah.
We've got here. Madeline Funk is here. All makes sense now. They want Davros to dance with them.
That thought had crossed my mind, yes.
Yeah. Are we still on air twice this week? We've been saying, are we still on air? It is. Oh, well, that's the casting news on that one that's come to the fore. It's now time to see what was Shooty wearing this month. Okay, that's what he's wearing. At least he's dressed.
What does he mean?
He's wearing one of Java Bean's crocodiles there for trousers.
Oh, of course, yeah.
That's problematic. Please don't skin the.
Has Java Bean modelled this on the show before? Has he? Has Michael done that?
No, but it is coming up, so please do like and subscribe. We were going to get some notes. We're going to get Java Bean into crocodile trousers, and we will be marketing them on this show. But no, this was from Shooty's latest high glossy magazine feature. As we know, this year he's been in all these very high glossy, pretentious, doesn't sell much, but only to a certain amount of people, magazines. He's been in them all. This was the GQ one. Now, he also attended the GQ award thingy. He was presented with an award by Jodie Turner-Smith, who I've never heard of. It was the GQ's Men of the Year party. And apparently Jodie Turner-Smith played God in Netflix. I don't know that. I don't know if any of you two know.
No idea.
No, right, okay. Never heard of her. No. She's also known apparently for playing the Amber Lynn character, the black Amber Lynn character. There was a bit of a controversy around.
I know who you mean now. Yeah, that makes
right,
sense.
Okay, went over my. Anyway, so he was at this event. He was at this thing, the Men of the Year thing, and of course he's got an award for that because he's been everywhere, hasn't he? Blah blah blah. But then he said something when he received his award, and it was this that made the papers and Doctor Who news. He said that he had actually filmed a sequence with William Hartnell, and of course, as all these things do. It set fandom alight, didn't it? How could he have done that? Is it going to be in his introductory episode? And then some clever people said it's going to be the reshooting of Adventures in Time and Space, which itself is now 10 years old. That was the drama, of course, starring David Bradley, not William Hartnell. David Bradley was playing William Hartnell and William Hartnell's Doctor Who in the recreation, wasn't it? The drama by Mark Gatiss, which did a sort of fictionalized tribute, if you like, to the origins of Doctor Who. We all remember that. It was fairly successful at the time, wasn't it? And that's what it turns out to be. So, of course, a lot of fans have gone to say, well, listen, Shooty needs to actually do his homework. He wasn't in the scene with William Hartnell. He was in the scene with David Bradley. But that's what we do as fans, isn't it? I don't like that at all. And that's what happened. So if you were watching Adventures in Time and Space on Thursday night, and you shouldn't have been, you should have been here with us on Diamond Day, then this is what happened. This is the original scene. We all remember this. And I think a lot of fans, you sentimental lot, got a little tear in the eye when this happened, didn't you? They'll be telling me you didn't, because I know a lot of you did. I know these two would have done, but there was a little tear in the eye. So what happened is that turned into this. So yeah, I mean, it doesn't offend me in any way.
I don't have a problem with it, because I think there was talk. I think Mark Gatiss said that that they shot it a certain way so they could slot in another Doctor. And that is the 10th, it's the 60th now, around the 50th, they put him in. To be fair, if they'd made this in season 20 and Peter Davison was in it, and they put Colin Baker in later, that wouldn't bother me either. So I think it's fine, you know.
I was just want to say here, hello to Jack. Jack's joined. I just caught you. Just wanted to say I thoroughly disliked last night's episode. I'm extremely disappointed in RTT. Have a lovely Sunday. You too, mate. And come back and speak to us tonight and give us your opinion on the reviews for Starbeast. 7 o'clock tonight in the UK. Come and join us. It'd be great to see you, mate. Yes, but yeah, I mean, you're right there, Paul, as well, isn't it? I mean, what's going to be happening though in the next? Who's going to be standing there in 10 years' time? Who's going to stand there in 20 years' time? Will it be the first holographic Doctor eventually?
Yeah.
How are they going to do that? I mean, if that's the way they shot it, I mean, how did they do that? Did they superimpose Matt into the scene originally, or was he actually on set? You know,
that I couldn't tell you. I don't really know, but
I don't know. I'd like to know.
But it's interesting. I saw someone did a lovely shot of all the Doctors crammed in the console room. And it's a fantastic thing that someone did on Facebook. It was lovely, yeah.
Well, it is lovely, isn't it? I mean, you know, I thought that I saw that one as well. I thought that was funny. Yeah, I mean, this doesn't worry me at all. I mean, if that's what they wanted to do and they've indicated it was, I do understand why the Matt Smith fans are upset, because they would have wanted to see him. But as long as the author is okay with this, and if he's saying that's the way he intended it, I personally don't have a problem. I do like the outfit he's wearing there, and I breathed a sigh of relief when I saw the pictures coming through that he was actually bloody dressed. Even this little picture, I do love this little picture of him. I think that's a lovely little picture. He winked at William Hartnell, but you know, it could have been worse, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. From Spacecrafting on X, Twitter.
That's from season 41, isn't it? That one.
It could have been worse, couldn't it, everybody? It really could have been worse. But no, Ncuti Gatwa did make his appearance in Adventures in Time and Space here. The first time you see the actor in the role, but he's actually playing himself really there, dressed in the costume in the narrative of that particular story, isn't he? I have to
unless the Doctor winking is one of his character traits, that could be it.
Who knows? But I have to say, at the GQ Awards, it's a running theme, isn't it? It's a running theme. The GQ Awards, when he got the Man of the Year award, he had to do it again. He had to bring in the fact that the Doctor is now black. I can't understand his obsession with reminding us he's a black man. Why does it matter? Just get on with the job. Nobody cares about. I mean,
like we said before, if he's a good actor, a good Doctor, that's what we want to see. Regardless of race, color, creed, whatever, we just want.
We got a round of applause for it.
Yeah,
he got a round of applause for saying that the Doctor is now a black guy. I mean, they are so hypocritical. It's no big deal for the real world. We don't care as long as he's a good actor. We don't care, but you guys do, and you think that we do because you do.
And
My head's
I want him to be. I want him to be a good Doctor. I want to be a good series and enjoy what he's going to do or going to bring to it. And I don't. I like him as an actor. That's all. It's bizarre.
Yeah. I mean, it's very, very strange. The comments here are going on this. Thank you for that, Crimpling to Bloom. We've also got TARDIS by the scene. So they tried to erase history twice last week. I get your point on that one, but as I say, I'm not that fussed about it. I mean, no big deal for me, anyway. I do understand the Smith fans, though. I do understand the Smith fans will be upset. I get that.
What I'm more upset about is they had to edit out lots of Unearthly Child references in it. In the original production, which is a real shame. So
yes, that's the point.
Yeah, so
I heard about that, which is sign of the times, isn't it? Jack is saying, I was watching the film, I wasn't expecting the change. I could say lots of things to that, mate. Oh, yes, problematic. I'll watch the Blu-ray next time. Yeah, that's the thing. You've got the Blu-ray as well. Yeah, they can't take that from you. Physical media, always
I'm waiting for a re-release of it with Shooty on it on DVD.
They might put it on his box set, mightn't they?
They may do, yeah. So.
Oh, Matt was added in post-production from what I had read. Oh, really? Okay. I can't remember because it was 10 years ago, and I don't know if I was that interested looking at it.
The thing about it, I think about the actual drama itself originally, is whether or not I can see why they put him in to show the future and to kind of promote what Hartnell said about it being, it's going to run and run and run kind of thing. But it takes away the moment a little bit of Hartnell's story, a little bit for me, but...
Yeah,
originally. Yeah.
Jack is coming back to tell me here as well. I don't like tweaking and altering existing films. I hate it, actually. I'm with you on that one. I don't like it at all. On this one, I'm just indifferent to it, mate. I have to be honest, because I'm not like a lot of fandom. I don't really rate it that much. That's just me. But I do know, I mean, I hate the fact they've butchered practically everything. Look at the carry-ons, we'd be lucky if they last 5 minutes in the next round of repeats. I mean, it's just ridiculous, really. The gags don't land anymore because they're problematic. TARDIS Spider saying it matters because that is the first box he checks. Okay. Oh, more ceilings broken. That did cross my mind about this. Why he's pushing this, and we just don't care, do we? I mean, why does suddenly the colour of people's skin matter again in the United Kingdom? It shouldn't. We're British. It shouldn't matter. The Doctor now has a moustache. A round of applause. Yeah, and I think it suits him. I mean, there's no doubt about it. He's a very handsome man.
Yeah, he's not the first though, is he? If you count,
he's a Cushing.
Yay.
But as I say, we could have had it worse. So count your chickens, everybody.
Like I say, that's season 41. That shot, that one.
Have they been editing the Carry On films? Yes, ITV Studios are butchering them every year, and that's what I'm saying. Eventually they'll be down to 5 minutes. I bought the box set, Jack, in the lockdown because I was terrified of all this cancel culture going on, saying they're going to get rid of everything. So I spent a small fortune on everything I thought was offensive before they got rid of it. Yes, and
have you got space for all that stuff? Have you got
no, not at all, not at all. Oh, and Pete's pointing out that the War Doctor had a moustache, did he?
He had a beard, yeah. So,
I have no idea about that at all. But anyway, so we've got that one there. Oh gosh, it's all madness, isn't it? Everybody, we need some cheering up. We need cheering up, don't we? Really, in this November 2023. And one way you can cheer up is by going and have a look at our Diamond Dazzlers playlist. We've been doing an awful lot of content here on Who's Views to celebrate the 60th anniversary of our beloved Time Lord. And there's lots of content on that playlist now, and it's still going. We've still got a few more shows to do to celebrate that momentous British legend. So have a look at the playlist. If you haven't already liked and subscribed to the channel, please do. And thank you to everybody that has. And again, I'd just like to say a huge and heartfelt, sincere thank you to everybody that's been getting in touch with all your comments about the channel and the way it looks, and the team and everybody that takes part in it. So thank you. I really, really appreciate it. Oh my goodness. We also had the colorization of the Daleks, didn't we, this month? Broadcast on the 23rd of November itself. We actually came on air to talk about it immediately after Diamond Day. So go and have a look at that. And that has also been hugely controversial in the Doctor Who fandom. I certainly didn't take to it. It wasn't for me. But of course, we had Phil coming on saying that his 9-year-old loved it. And that's got me from the response. A lot of the younger ones apparently really did. So...
And that's really good. That's really good, isn't it?
Isn't it? Yeah. You mentioned this as well on Diamond Day, so I went and got a skill. This is
that
sort
was
of a
lovely.
tease,
that was really nice. I like that.
Yeah, Brendan, do you like this bit?
Yeah, I mean, I saw it on the night, and obviously it gives you a taster. And I was saying to you, I think yesterday, I've heard from a lot of kids who did enjoy it, and I think I said to you that while I was preparing for one of our shows, I put Daleks in colour on again.
You did, yeah.
And I actually, this is the one problem, isn't it? You sometimes need to watch things twice or three times. I was less offended by it. I actually thought it was fine, because I kept thinking, the instant reaction was all the music. And actually, I got 35, 40 minutes in of a 75-minute program. And I thought, no, we've got the dialogue from Hartnell. Yeah, it's establishing. Actually. And I think I made a reference on the night, and I said there was a program on BBC that encapsulated a year, and it showed you the politics, the disasters and everything. And it was pop music in the background. And it was like a match of the day highlights of the year. And in a way, this is the Dalek version of that. I was a bit harsh with the editing, and I'm less harsh now. So it is one of those things. I've got to be truthful. And I think it's quite acceptable, I'll be honest with you.
Well, I'm good for you, because at least you went back to look at it, which is something I won't do. I cancelled my my Steelbook order, and I'll get the version when it's in the bargain bin and look at it again. I've also sneakily preview for tonight's show. Just done it also with the specials, the 60th anniversary. I've just cancelled my order. But you know, I mean, but good for you for going back to it. I'm quite amused by the fact that the younger ones accepted it, because I was watching Whiskey Galore yesterday when I was at my mum's. Classic film, of course. It makes me laugh to this very day. It's black and white. And I just thought, isn't it a shame that younger kids are going to miss out on Basil Rathbone, Harold Lloyd, you know, the Lavender Hill Mob, because it's not in colour.
Yeah. I mean, there's lots of things that are wonderful in black and white, and I think I think Doctor Who itself is one of them, because even though I've actually watched it again myself, Brendan, and I quite like some of it, but the editing still gets me a little bit. That end bit I think is beautiful, and it's wonderful to sort of sell the 60s, or the Hartnell part of the 60s anyway. I know Troughton appeared at the very end of it, but it's a lovely tribute to Hartnell, the Hartnell era, and what you could get into if you enjoyed the Daleks. I don't think they're going to colorize all of them, I'd imagine.
Oh, it would cost a fortune.
It would. So, but and some of them worked better in color than others did. But
Patrick Troughton, just, you got a face of him and the blue eyes. I have to say, he stands out, as in the colorization of the Troughton, because this seems a slightly clearer picture. I find it very promising, and you've got to be honest. The kids don't watch black and white; they think it's too old. So you've got to do something. If you want to show them Hartnell and Troughton, you've got to do something.
It's a shame, though, that does seem to be a problem with this. I mean, there's lots of issues, as we know, with Generation Z. There are lots and lots of issues with them. They need psychotherapy. But for younger ones coming through, as well, they're going to miss out the lovely work of Hartnell, Troughton and Pertwee in other things if they're not prepared to watch. And that's what gets me as well. They're not going to be able to go and see Gordon Jackson, you know, our lovely classic actors. They're just going to forget about these people. They're going to be lost to time. And all these talents that you see, you know, and it breaks my heart.
I mean, part of the thing was Doctor Who was shot in black and white. It was shot a certain way, so that's why I wasn't so keen on the colorization of it. Some of it works, some of it doesn't. I also agree what you said, JT, about the constant flashback to remind the audience that we've just seen it 5 minutes ago, that the left the fluid link, blah blah blah, etc. All that kind of stuff.
Are kids that bad? Are they that bad? They can't retain the information from 10 seconds ago. Is it that poor? Oh, please.
I can understand it. Partially for a pacing issue, we're trying to pace it a bit more and try and make that work, but it was done too often. I think
we've got to be aware, when we were at school, come on, how many kids were saying they were watching silent movies? I think you've got to put it slightly in perspective. We were pretty judgmental kids as well. I'd watch Laurel and Hardy. I'd watch the various, but the rest I thought was too old. I wouldn't be watching.
Well, I still hate silent films. I'm not a big fan. If I want to read the subtitles or read a book, you know, I rather don't want to hear the dialogue.
I'm like that with foreign films, Paul. I can't watch foreign films.
So there's my point. The kids have just moved on, and everything's flashbang wallop and gaming and everything, and I can't. You know, that's how it is. And so whether I want them to see William Hartnell, so how Yeah.
I just hope they grow up, because they're going to miss out a lot of British heritage as well. I mean, you know, I wasn't like that when I was a kid. I loved the black and white stuff. I was so into Basil Rathbone on Friday nights on BBC Two, Harold Lloyd, Flash Gordon, Champion the Wonder Horse, and on Saturday mornings and in the morning. That's what I mean. Again, it goes back to what they did with BBC children's television back then. They showed these things that would have been in cinemas on our holidays. You know, I loved Buster Crab as a Flash Gordon. That's what actually helped me with science fiction.
Yeah. I did, but remember, this is a 60-year-old program. So if you're saying I want them to take them back to something made 60 years ago, when we were kids, it was the 1920s. That's
doesn't matter. It's still old.
No.
These things are timeless. You know, why? I just worry about their ability to live and let live.
The analogy is, did you watch something 60 years old as in silent movies? And I didn't. I don't
think we had them, really. I remember some silent movies and thinking, interesting. I like the one with do you remember the one with the face in the moon and the rocket going into it? That was my favorite one, because they used to play that on Saturday mornings occasionally before the Daleks or something like that. And that fascinated me, because I'm like, is that shaving cream? You know, that fascinated me. I love the way that they made it, but without the history, they wouldn't be where we are today. And I can guarantee you that some of the CGI, I mean, if you look at Doctor Who, the modern Doctor Who from 2009, some of that CGI is really dodgy because it's moving on quickly. I don't know. It's just a shame. We've got some of the. Jack is saying here, the only sanity I can find in Doctor Who today is the classic episodes. I think that's how it's going to stay, to be honest. That's absolutely fine. So stay with us, because we've got lots more coming up for you. Meddling Funk, thank you so much. It's been a great week of content from you all on the channel. Really appreciate that. Thank you very, very much. Garbage is saying, why does everything have to be controversial? So annoying. As for the Daleks, the colour montage at the end was very nice. And Monoid looks fab. Is that purple hair? Years later on UFO. Well, yeah, that's true. Remember the UFO? That's very true. That one,
he needs to get some eye drops, so he's got a red eye. He needs to get something for that, I think.
That's probably problematic. Wyatt Earp in a pink shirt. He was. Camp. Mark is saying, I am yet to see it, but I will have to wait for a Blu-ray DVD release. Yes, of course, because it wasn't put out over there anywhere else outside the UK and Ireland. I suspect this has been made for a younger audience as part of the big Whoniverse, as young people don't like black and white. Yes, it's true. Yeti and the Underground works perfect for me. Colour wouldn't have the same effect. This is what they'll find out, won't they? Jack is saying, this is great, everybody. Thank you for your comments. If they did it well with the editing in particular, there would be no controversy. Classic Doctor Who deserves respect and care. That's what they think they're giving it, Jack.
Well, that's what I feel about the music still. The music very much lost some of the atmosphere that it had when it was quieter in places as well.
Yeah, well, I'm sure it worked better, says Meddling Monk. If you've never seen the story before, I find myself start noticing what's different. But we were all having fun about the fact that suddenly there was Disco Dalek time, wasn't there? Woo! Shirley Ballas was coming up.
Did you still feel Brendan, when the bit where they run the Dalek and they try to escape and Ian gets out the Dalek, that became all Joe 90, that bit. I don't know what happened there.
I've really reflected on this, and that the Bobby, when they edited quite tightly the escape and everything, and my first reaction was, what is going on? But then I did wonder about the Dalek invasion Earth with Peter Cushing, when there was an attack and it was all music and it was a bit kind of dee-dee-dee and a bit jazzy. And you think, you've got to be fair and you've got to judge in total fairness of the context of Doctor Who. There were moments you know what the Dalek invasion of Earth music plays like, and it doesn't quite fit tension necessarily all the time.
No,
it's a bit,
it doesn't. No.
So the truth is, I thought they were almost doing a Dalek invasion of Earth or the Daleks movie with the music. That's what my suspicion was.
I do. I think they look too much of the Peter Cushing films, and so we've got to make it like that. But it just makes the Peter Cushing, in my opinion, the Peter Cushing Dalek film better. I was like, oh, I've got to go back and watch that now, because
again on Facebook, somebody did a black and white version of the Doctor and the Daleks trailer, which really made me laugh. I thought, brilliant. It's like a protest.
I was obsessed with Hitchcock, says Jack. Silent film and discovered classic Who in my teens. Trip to the Moon is brilliant. That's the one. Thank you so much. I love that one as well. Yeah, and he's also saying societies we know too well is dumbing down. They'll never appreciate. That's my point. I totally agree with you that I do fear for it, and we're going to lose a whole lot of very talented people, actors, producers, everybody there. I don't know. You can't color everything, and why would you? We've also got garbage. I love the colorization of black and white episodes, but I want no CGI, no editing, no new music scores. Just add color. That's what I thought they were doing. So when they came out with this whole new thing, I was a little bit sort of how's that going to work? Well,
Yeah, Peter Hanton said that Buster Keaton was a genius. He's right. He was a fantastic writer, performer,
so
director.
good.
Yeah.
I'd like to say hello to Richard here, who's joined us here. Hello, Richard. We're nearly coming to the end of the show. We've got a couple more items for you, so you'll have to go back and watch it. But it's lovely to see you. It's lovely to see everybody. Thank you so much for joining us this morning on the aftermath of of what happened last night. Oh, look, there's another one, the Flashing Blade.
Oh,
do you remember? Yeah, and that reminds me. Yeah, Nosferatu. I mean, another classic. Yeah, I mean, oh wow.
Sebastian, Robinson Crusoe.
Oh, do you remember Robinson Crusoe? Yeah. Oh, and do you remember the Disney version as well, which they probably wouldn't be allowed to show now because it's problematic. Their color version of it as well, that was quite clever because it was more or less the same thing with a little bit of updation for. Grip to those sort of things. Richard is actually, as he's joined us, the Starbeast should have been called the Stair Least. The messaging was nauseating. Richard, I'm going to plug it again. We're going to be back here tonight on the channel 7 o'clock with our review of the Starbeast. So please come and join us. We want as many people joining us as well to chip in with I'm hoping it's going to be a very interesting conversation for us all. I've got a few things to say. Paul as well. Yes, we've got all that. Fans, yes, exactly. Fans are doing better colorization. Well, wasn't this what's his name? Rich. He's a fan, isn't he? That's it. Thank you. I couldn't know if it was Tipple or Timple. He's a fan from YouTube who got to do it. I think the color was fine. I do bear in mind that he would have been told about the palette. I think he would have been told about that, as Mark Ayres would have been told about the music.
Kirsty said something on when we were on talking about it that is very much like the Star Trek from the 60s kind of vibe, which I got from it. The color palette was a bit like that,
That's exactly what that was a great point she said there, wasn't it? Because I got it then. That's when it came into place. It's as though they looked at William Shatner's lovely 3 years series and gone, oh, that's the 60s. But I would have looked at the Avengers personally, with it being British. And I love the Avengers. We might have to do a show about the Avengers at some point. Any fans of Adam? Oh, yes. Come on. Yeah. I found it overlooked. I didn't find it, Jack, because I was aware it was there, but I'd never actually really seen it until we were all stuck in our houses. And I found it then, and I fell in love with it. And it's like the original one. I also discovered, Randall and Hopkirk Deceased.
Oh, great series, yeah.
Oh, that's brilliant. Richard is saying he's going to stop by this evening, live from 7. Thank you very much, mate. This is great, isn't it? Looking at everybody here chatting away. I absolutely love it. Talking of colorization, he says, lining up his next cue. Clayton Hickman, the genius that is Clayton Hickman, celebrated the 60th anniversary year on the 21st of November with another one of his wonderful, wonderful things. You may have seen this, you may not have done, but I wanted to show it here because good morning, Clayton. Nice to see you. He took this. Oh, hang on. Let me just get rid of that comment as well. This is because the comments are all coming up and up and up and up. He did that. Now, I don't know if you've seen this, but 1, 2, 3.
Wow.
Isn't it lovely? It's a rehearsal shot. Look what Hartnell's wearing. Lovely Grandad Cardi, as I used to call them. We'll go back to that.
Yeah.
I've never seen this picture either. Where the hell does he find these things? He's so clever, Clayton, isn't he?
Mm.
And
it's lovely when you get unknown pictures because there's so many ones that get repeated all the time, and that's lovely
60
new one.
years in, and little gems still cropping up from somebody's loft or something. I'm so grateful for it. It's amazing. You just go, what? Where's that come from? Never seen that in the W.H. Allen annual tributes. Peter Heining's last. Anyway, yes, we've got all that going on. The other thing that I want to talk about here as well, of course, is Radio Times. The Radio Times celebrated with a hugely priced weekly magazine celebrating Doctor Who, and I'm going to mention the man himself. It gave us a fabulous take on the legend that is Mr. Tom Baker. Beautiful pictures of our Doctor, the 4th Doctor himself, approaching his 90th birthday. He's 90 in January. And it is fabulous to see this. But of course, we have to laugh. Now, we all know as Doctor Who fans, especially us of a certain vintage, we know what Tom is like. We know he's eccentric. We know he has his tongue very firmly in his cheek. We know he has that old-fashioned British art of being able to take the piss, and nobody can really take offense. But when he said, I'm mildly contemptuous of the other doctors, we all know what he talks about there, don't we? Because we know he's doing it. Oh, yeah. Ooh, what do you mean there's more of them? Go away, He's always been like that. But of course, it did make some of the press. This one here, reunion. No, I feel a degree of. I mean, come on. Well played, Tom. Well played. I mean, that is just brilliant. A whole page in a couple of the papers. This one is from the Daily Mirror, but there were a couple of others that said the same sort of thing. Not quoting them, of course, but well done, Tom. But isn't it, everybody? I think we can all agree. Fantastic pictures and so brilliant to see him.
It is lovely. It's lovely to see him. And I've said this already, but it's nice to see him. It just reminds you of him getting old now, which is quite sad. But
it happens to us if we're lucky.
Well, it does, yeah. But I think as a fan, you often think about your favourite people as you watch the episodes. So I always have an image in my head of him from 74 to 81, you know, and then you see him like that. It's sometimes a bit of a shock, even though he is nearly 90 and he should be that looking like that. But it's bittersweet sometimes to see him like that, isn't it?
Oh, it totally is. It is. Yeah. It is. Because as I said the other night, we are so used to going back and seeing him from his 1974 to 1981 self.
Yeah.
And that's fine. So when we do see him, he knows he's loved, and I'm so pleased he knows he's loved. He's got a whole load of us there, not just our generation that grew up with him, but others as well who recognise him as the Doctor forever and ever and ever. And it's just fantastic. It's just wonderful to see him. So listen, I don't know if you noticed this as well, but the wonderful and the lovely Nicola Bryant, after the Star Beast last night, she got onto the Twitter X platform. Why did he call it X? Somebody tell me. Leave a comment. Why did he call it X? It sounds like a bloody film, dodgy film. Anyway, she put these pictures out last night.
Oh, fantastic.
Colin Baker and herself, while they were filming their Tales from the TARDIS, were obviously, they gained access to the new console room, which was revealed on the show last night. I should have said spoiler for anybody that didn't watch it, but tough, as Russell T Davies would say. Sorry about that. But yes, there they are. And she was thrilled about it because, they got to go on the... do you know what? They look brilliant on that set.
They do, yeah.
Don't they? They suit it, those two. And I know Phil will be desperately wanting, he wants a Warrior Queen and the Doctor series. I wonder if he wants them in that set. But that was it. The new TARDIS was revealed last night as part of the Star Beast, as I'm sure we all know. And we will also be talking about that 7 o'clock tonight on this very channel. Gentlemen, it's now 6 minutes past 12 on a Sunday morning, Sunday the 26th of November. I think it's time for us to wrap it up now. Thank you so much, you two, for your company today. Absolutely fantastic. Thank you to everybody that has joined us. There's been a lot of you watching us, a lot of activity in the chat. Amazing and thrilled to see you all there. Let's have a look at there. Oh, the roundels are wrong. Pete Harrington was saying a big set. It has to be the largest. It is. We know it's the largest console room set in Doctor Who's entire history. I mean, I woke up at that particular point. We'll be talking more about it. And I just thought, bloody hell, how much did that cost? I would like to know. But how clever does it look? I do like the console room. Yes, absolutely. Richard is saying Russell Tough T. Yeah, Jack wants it bigger. Make it bigger. Turn it lesbian. You'll know what I mean if you're a South Park fan there. Nicola seems to be featured a lot in the Channel 5 programme about Doctor Who and the Scandals thread. Not watched it yet. I don't intend to because I know I'm aware of some of the people that worked on it. So please let me know what you think about it.
It's not very good. It's not very good.
I think from what I heard from some people's messaging me last night, it's tabloid.
Yeah, it's very much
not like the quality you get from us, gentlemen. So we've got all that going on here. Yes, brilliant. Thank you, JT, Paul and Brendan, says Crimpling to Build. Thank you very much. Yes, join us again later on. Oh, gosh, this is going to be fun. I'm really looking forward to this. As I say, we're going to be back on the channel tonight, 7 p.m. Make sure you ring the bell so you get notification. Make sure you're tuning in. We want your views on the Star Beast. It's going to be a good one. It's going to be lively, I'm sure. Let's see which of our chums all turn up as well. So again, to the guys here, thank you so much for joining us. Thank you very much for tuning in. Really appreciate it. We will see you, hopefully, tonight, 7 p.m. here on the channel. Ooh. Let's see how it turns out.
As well, to be honest.
We're going to be doing scores on the TARDIS doors, and I'm also going to be introducing a new round in these set of reviews. As we go into the new version of reviews, we're going to be doing the ratings game. You're going to love it. Join us tonight. Thank you very much. Have a great Sunday. We'll see you this evening, live on the channel, 7 p.m. Thank you, everybody. Try.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye, everyone.